You're listening to Ernestly Speaking, the only weekly podcast that covers friends, foes, and anything that goes. And now, for your badass host, Ernest Owens. And we're back with another episode of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens, myself. Well, we finally arrived at the final week of August, which means that pretty much the next episode you listen to, it will be September 1st, and we'll be officially in fall. You know, we'll be in that fourth and final quarter of the year of 2025, which is, the year has been going, and summer just seemed like it just went by really fast. I enjoyed it. I'm not complaining. I think, the heat and the rain, in some situations kind of created roadblocks to fun. Like, I think there was times where I was like, we couldn't do anything because it was raining really bad. And now we're about to get into fall, where I'm hoping that things kind of, chill out. And I'm thinking about this while reflecting on this weekend specifically being the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, which, of course, happened in New Orleans. And it changed my life as a Houstonian growing up. It changed, of course, the way that we talk about storms, weather. I would even argue climate change, which at that time everyone was talking about global warming, but the word is climate change because, it's not just about heat. It's also about, the changing of the seasons and the climate and all that impacts, right? And so I'm just holding all that in and thinking about just how the climate is changing and the environment is changing today and where we were 20 years ago, and how some of that stuff, the politics behind that, the inefficiency of government, here we are 20 years later, still some inefficiencies with government under two Republican presidents. At that time, it was George W. Bush. Now we have Trump. And just how even this weekend, there was talks about another, storm that seemed not to have been a big deal for Philly. But I know in Margate, there was, some flooding there. And it's just a situation. Hurricane Aaron is, what I'm thinking about right now. It has moved away from the East Coast, but it remains a coastal threat, according to CNN. And so all of these changes is just, with climate, it does impact the seasons. It definitely do. And I think about this summer, just putting my scientific hat on, but I just want people to take climate change seriously. We talk about it, throughout the podcast. It's not something we talk about every single episode, of course, but it's just something that I just want to reiterate, especially with all of the changes happening and consistently happening. I'm curious to see how this year's winter go. I think there has been forecast that it's going to be a super, super cold winter, because it has definitely been a super hot Philly. Like, we had record-breaking heat that we hadn't seen since 2012. I mean, there were days that superseded over 100 degrees. And whether it's 90 degrees or 100 degrees or even 85 degrees, Mr. Owens pretty much stay at home. I typically stay home. I try to avoid extreme heat. And, you all say, Ernest, you have this model skin. How do you keep it? And with that, I say, thank you, if you know where that joke comes from. But, I sunscreen, I do use sunscreen. It is important. But I try not to be out in the sun in general, whether I have sunscreen or not. I'm not saying the sun is the enemy. It's just that you just have to just be mindful about it. It is good for you. Sunlight is good. Sunshine is good. But overheat, exhaustion, like this whole sun tanning thing that a lot of you all like to do, it's not good for your skin. And let me tell you something. Melanated people are my melanated folks, my black and brown folk that have the melanin, okay? We're not talking about racial identity. I'm talking about skin complexion, okay? If you got some brown, some hue, some dark, while that is helpful to some extent, that we don't get the rays in the same ways that our more Caucasian and lighter folk do, we still need to get and have on sunscreen because skin cancer is real and all racial ethnicities and skin complexions can get it. Okay? Some in higher cases, but it's still a thing. Okay? Do not play out here with skin cancer. Melanoma, all those types of things. If you see some things on your skin and some things that look a little weird, and just get it checked out by a dermatologist, get it checked out by officials in that space. That is a serious thing. And we don't talk a lot about it. We always talk about the vanity of skincare and the beauty and all that good stuff, but that's a part of it. Okay. It's not enough just to drink water and be hydrated. Hydration is important, but hydration does not protect from skin cancer. You need to actually, do those things. And if you're somebody who may say, look, I can't just put sunscreen on all my body all the time. Okay, protect that face. Wear sunglasses. People always say, Ernest, you have the nicest shades, blah, 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 blah. Yes, I love wearing my shades. But let me say this, because this is so important. And I guess I should have said more of this early in the summer when it was really hot. But listen, sun rays are out whether it's the summer or not. I think people have treated sunscreen like it's a um a summer thing. Yes, but no, it's an all year round thing, okay? So if you don't necessarily like putting on the sunscreen cream, get a spray, do something, but try to, when it's super super hot. Now, if there's no sun out, you're okay. You don't have to do too much. And if you're black specifically, I would say you don't have to do too much, but there is still UV rays out there, but you don't have to go ham with the sunscreen if there's no sun out. You're kind of okay. If it's dark, sun is down, the heat's not out, whatever, you're okay. It ain't that crazy. But if you do have certain types of skin conditions or whatnot, it's always recommended, by dermatologists to put it on and just have some on. But if it's hot out and the sun is out and it's beaming, you really need to put on some sunscreen and put things on. If you don't like to use the creams, there is sunscreen spray, and that is good. But I will tell you this too, because again, this is what this podcast is for. We try to, give you some extra advice. Do not put sunscreen on in the middle of the heat or right when you go outside. To maximize the actual full potency of sunscreen, and even a lot of skincare products, but we'll get to that. You need to put it on 15 to 30 minutes before you go outside. It has to activate on the skin. If you go right outside with the sunscreen on, it can work. It will help you, but it gets a little weird. Like the activation and the protection, it does not fully live up to what it do. And some of you are not reading the directions on the sunscreen. You just put it on and no one's actually doing it. So if you're going to the beach and you're applying the sunscreen on you and it hasn't been on you before, it might not be as effective. It will not be as effective as it should be. You are supposed to put it on before you go outside, before the sun rays hit, and you actually just can't put it on in the house and then go right outside. You need to let it seep in, let it get on the skin, let it do what it do, and then you go outside. And also, you have to reapply. Unless you are only there if you're only outside for a cookout and for whatever. But stay in the shade. People be like, no shade. No, all shade. Even when I go out, I don't actually go directly in the sun. I try to avoid it as much as possible. So just make sure you keep that out. And also, for my skincare folks, and these are for my people that are embracing retinol, do not go outside when you apply retinol. Do not put retinol on in the daytime when you go outside. Please do not put any products with retinol on your skin outside, any of that. Do not. Retinol, preferably, talk to your skincare experts, your dermatologist, talk to people in skincare experts. Got to take it from me. Do your research, but I'm telling you, retinol products are best to be used at night before you go to bed. When you put it on, you apply it to your skin, you go to bed, you wake up, you're looking like brand new. Retinol products work best at night when you're sleeping. It does something during the sleeping process. It gets those wrinkles, those fine lines. That's when it's most effective. You are not supposed to put retinol on during the day. I know there are some products, even Kiehl's have that daily dose retinol thing. But the problem with that, in my opinion, and this is me, this is my opinion. I'm not a skincare expert, but just somebody who, you all look at this skin and you say this skin. I will tell you that retinol that daily retinal stuff that they're talking about, the reason why I'm not crazy about it is because if you have to go outside and interact with the sun, a lot of people are not necessarily putting on sunscreen appropriately over that retinal to protect that. And even if you do, it can create skin irritation, redness, and other problems. You just don't want to do it. It's not that dire, okay? If you have a daily retinal product, use it daily, but daily at night, not in the suntime. And I don't care what they're telling you. Like, I'm just, don't do it. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. Avoid it. Just put it on at night before you go to bed. You don't need to be putting on retinol anyway twice a day like that. Honestly, it's a very strong product. And retinol, for those who don't know, is a type of skincare agent that works to improve skin elasticity, fine lines, wrinkles, all those things, and redness. It really helps get the face together. And dermatologists oftentimes suggest that when your skin begins to lose collagen at a certain rate, oftentimes when you get past 30, that if you start using retinol products in your early 30s, starting your 30s normally, when that happens, it will actually help reduce wrinkles and fine lines as you begin to age in your 40s and 50s and whatnot. So if you start early, it really helps with the skincare aging thing. Now, it's a very effective product. I mean, if you're in your 40s, like, dang, I can't use it now. Oh, no. It's wonderful. And it actually really, really takes off in the 40s and the 50s if you use it. But if you begin to incorporate retinol in your skincare regimen very early, it begins to help the aging process and things for people, And do not just do your face. You know what I always tell you all, don't forget that neck. Whenever you use a skincare product, when you're washing your face, when you're doing any lotions, moisturizers, serums, toners, do the face and the neck. Both. I'm just saying, the drapes gotta match the curtains. I mean, all of that gotta go. What would be the point to have a very gorgeous, flawless face, and then the neck is looking like something different? You gotta do both, okay? And even a decollete, the little area under, I call it the necklace area. That area that is not the chest, is right before the chest. It's right around the lower end of the throat, where you put your necklace. Get that area too, okay? The neck and that area, because when you're wearing the shirts, whatever, you want to have that evenness. And that particular skin is very different. Like, your chest skin is very different from the neck skin and the face skin. The level of density, exposure, because most of the chest skin, right, is oftentimes covered most of the time. Most of the time it's covered. So skin exposure, exposure to sun, most of the time it's covered. So it's actually more youthful oftentimes than the neck and the skin can be if you don't maintain it. So you don't have to do too much. So people are always like, well, why can't I use certain products on the chest? I mean, you should still clean your chest, but you don't have to use those skincare products, because the way in which the chest skin ages differently than the neck and the face is because of the wear and tear that we just do to it, right? Like, we're smiling, we're frowning, we're making facial expressions. Things are oftentimes eating at the skin. Elements are hitting it in a different way than compared to the chest skin. So that's why I always say you got to take care of that neck and that face, because both of them are oftentimes getting exposed to whatever is in the elements. And so, that's very important. Do not forget that neck, okay? Just because some of you all, I'm looking at that face, and the face is making improvement, but that neck, I'm like, are you taking care of that neck? So when I tell people watch your neck, that's what I mean. But, I didn't know I was going to go into a whole, moment on skincare, but it's just so important. It's just really important. And I, just something on my heart just said, I need to tell you all about this. So yeah, but I digress. This has been a very robust week. I've been working hard and playing hard. It's been a week of retreats and parties. Okay, I had 2 retreats. One of the retreats I was on was with the Philly Download, which is doing some incredible great work in this city around news coverage in a different way. I'm an executive consultant for them, executive advisor, and I consult for them. And they're doing some wonderful things over there. And so there was a great retreat. I got to meet some incredible people. I finally got to meet Ernestly in person, which is really cool. Like, we've known of each other for years, but we never have had like some one-on-one time. And so it was great to see her in person. Um, and she's just a incredible poet. She has a very, you know, fascinating career in activism and spoken word and music, and she's a Philly gem. And then also there was a great retreat for my beloved fraternity, Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated, the mighty Rho chapter, the only single letter alumni chapter within the fraternity. We are the first. We do a lot of firsts here in this world, but it was great. We had our retreat this weekend, and it was a good time. And I was playing spades. I was with my line brothers, my LBs, and it was a great time to just get out with the brotherhood and get ready for this incredible fraternal year. We're in our 111th fraternal year. And we got a lot of events coming up, some big things happening. And just, you're going to see more alphas in Alphadelphia, but definitely from Rose. So stay tuned. Um, Went to a good birthday party, in Cherry Hill. Our good friend, Mr. Johnson and I, one of our favorite people, Rhonda Anderson. She's an incredible attorney. She's an incredible person in general. She had a real big birthday bash, and we went out and celebrated her. And there's got a lot of great folks that were in town. It was just fabulous. So that was really fun. This week we went out. There was a lot of dining this week. I checked out a lot of great places. So, you know, in no particular order, I went to the Love for lunch this week. And I love the Love. I love the Love. Okay. It is one of my all-time favorite places to lunch. I don't go there often for dinner, and I don't know why. I think it's because I'm always going somewhere else. And maybe because my mindset is I go here for lunch all the time, so I can't just do dinner and lunch. But I went to dinner when they first opened, and it was pretty good. And I went a lot during the pandemic because they had the outside heated tents and things. And that was good. But I always go for lunch, and lunch is always a good time. They just have the right portions. The pricing is good. I feel good day drinking there because everyone's day drinking there. When I was there, I also saw sitting right next to me former Mayor Michael Nutter and David Cohen having lunch right next to us. And I was like, oh, that is a power lunch. I mean, I was having my own power lunch talking to someone who was also a big deal about some project I'm working on. We'll talk about that another time. So I was having my own little power lunch, but that lunch right there, right next to me. Now, I didn't know what they were talking about. I mind my business. But I did go over there and say hi to Nutter and Mr. Cohen because they seemed like they had some things going on, and I was minding my business. But, it just everyone's at the Love. Like, if you actually want to, there are places in Philly that no matter what time you go, you're going to see somebody big. And I guess some people say I'm big. So they were looking at me like, how you doing? I'm like, how y'all doing? What y'all do? So it's like that. Places like that I would say no matter what time of day you go, but especially for lunch, right? I'm not gonna tell all the places because I don't some of y'all might be a little too much. I'm not gonna put it all out here. But some spots, and there are a lot of them are around Rittenhouse, right? Um, the Pyramid Club, if you're a member. Anytime I go to the Pyramid Club for lunch, and I am a proud member, there is some money. It's a whole lot of money up there. That's a spot for sure. No matter when I go, there is some interesting people there having some interesting conversations and doing their thing. Pyramid Club is one of them. Um, the Love. Every time I go to Love, someone is there. Park. Okay, you can catch some people at Park for sure. A Kitchen, which is right across from the Love. It's some things going down there. And I think that's all I want to share. Those are the easy ones. There's some other ones, some other spots too, but I can't put everything out there in the streets. But those, no matter when you go in the daytime, if you go around noon, 1 o'clock, 11, you're going to see some of the most influential Philadelphians in those spaces for lunch. It's just I don't know. Why are those the places? Someone might ask. Why them specifically? One, I think because one is in Center City. So if you're in Center City, like you're there, right? So it's around all the major offices. Two, they are high quality restaurants. Like you're not in there getting a hoagie, or getting some, you know, slice of pizza. This is for the folks that's, you want some grown quality food. And these are people that got money, so they're gonna spend $25 for a salad and then $16 to add salmon to the salad. And you're sitting there looking like for $20, why the salmon is not already included in the salad. But I digress. Okay. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. That is for them. Okay. And then also, you're in a space with other like minded people. So you're also there to, network or remind somebody that they owe you a check. Sometimes, or follow up to an email that you might have sent them 2 weeks ago and you caught them out at this lunch and you rolled up on them. I'm not talking from personal, experience. I'm just talking in general. But you might roll up on them and see them and say, hey, how's it going? They're like, hey, yeah, it's good to see you out here. I sent you an email. Oh, yeah, I saw them. I'll get to you. And then they get to you right when they get their ass back to the office, get to you. I'm not talking from experience. I'm just talking in general. But this is that type of lunch. This is why those particular spaces are like that, But yeah, this is Philly. So lunch at the Love was fabulous, fabulous, and it's always a good time. It's always a great opportunity. People watch, and just fun. Also had a great dinner. Mr. Johnson and I went to Jansen um, this weekend, and we went with one of his good friends who looks like Kamala Harris. Her name is Crystal. It used to be Crystal Watson, but she recently got married, and we went to their wedding. I talked about it a couple episodes ago, but they got married earlier this summer, and we went to the wedding, and it was fabulous. And so this was like a nice. They finished their honeymoon and we had a lovely dinner at Jansen. And this is very significant because Jansen, which is one of my all-time favorite restaurants, absolutely my favorite restaurant in Germantown, hands down, it is the best restaurant in Germantown. They are closing because they're going to relocate. To White Marsh Country Club. And it's a little bittersweet and sad because that country club, you can't eat there just for fun. You have to actually be a member to eat there. So Jansen is going there, and it's like, okay, so I'm not going to be a member of the White Marsh Country Club. That's like in Westminster or someplace like that. I can't remember where's that White Marsh. I think that's another place, but they're going to be out there in the suburbs or whatever. And I'm like, so I can't eat there anymore. What I'm hearing from sources close to the situation is that they're going to have a special dining club membership, which is separate from the White Marsh, club in general. So if you're a part of the White Marsh Country Club, you'll get to have the Jansen experience without any problems. But I think that's going to be within a year. So when they go there, the only way you're going to be able to have that experience is if you have a friend that is a member, and then of course you could be their guest. So if any of you are a member of the White Marsh Country Club, I don't assume because my network is far and wide. I don't know, but if any of you all are, and you like each other and we cool, let a brother in. I want to go because Jansen is a really great restaurant, and you all, if you never had it, you're in for a treat. But right now they're having their like final, last weeks of supper, so if you can get in there in their final, their final weeks and days, because there's a couple of more weeks left. Get in there, okay? They're doing a really great 5 course actually. It's a 5 course because it's like a mouche bouche, like a salad. Then there is a pasta. Then there is a fish dish, and then a steak, and then a dessert. So it's a 5 course. It's a nice 5 course for $125 per person. And then you can also get wine on the side and pair it, which is not that bad. And it's a nice prefix menu, but they will adjust on some allergies. So one of the people at our table don't eat pork, so they substituted the pork with something else. Also, somebody didn't eat mushrooms, and they gave more of the other vegetable instead of the mushrooms. But if you're like a vegan, no, they don't got anything for vegans, okay? But they can make some things if you let them know what your allergies are in advance. So That's a good thing. But if you're interested, try to get in. There's lots of room and space. But we really had a great dinner there. They had one of the best beef Wellingtons in the city. And so I'm going to miss their beef Wellington. And I'm going to say this, and this is the first time I've ever said this ever out loud. But people have asked me what is like my favorite like dish, like just dish, and I always like, what's my favorite food? It's like really hard to say what's your favorite food. Like my favorite cuisine, it's like, what does that mean? I mean, I guess I know what that means, but I like, what's a cuisine that I love a lot? It varies on my mood. I mean, I could say Italian because I eat it all the time, and I feel like there's a lot of versatility with Italian food. But then I also feel like that's a little basic. So like outside of Italian and American, like new American cuisine, whatever that means, and I mean soul food don't count. I would say Indian food. Like if I was to say outside of like the traditional classical norms, I would say Indian food is my favorite cuisine. Like I love Indian food. I really do. I think, outside of the traditional Americana norms. And then Thai would be next. Thai would be next. Thai would be next. But I really love Indian cuisine. I really do. I really do. And Philly has some great spots. So I would say Indian cuisine, like outside of like soul food, which I grew up on. Like I don't that don't count. New American don't count. And Italian in Philadelphia really don't count because it's like you can be eating Italian and not even realize it, because it's just so ingrained in Philly food. But outside of that, I would say Indian cuisine. Indian cuisine is really good. But my favorite dish that is hitting me that I like, and I don't eat it all the time because if I ate it all the time, I would be a mess. Beef Wellington. That is my favorite dish right now, and it is my favorite dish. Like if I can, like I love duck. I'm a sucker for duck. But beef Wellington as a dish, I love the idea of it, and so I don't eat it all the time. I try to eat it once a year because it's very heavy and it's very rich. But I love beef Wellington. I just do. I just love the whole thing. I love the crustiness, the rounded, the savoriness, the meat in the middle. Oh my goodness. Like, because I love steak. Like steak is like I love steak. But the idea of having with all like, when they slice it, like everything about it, there's no bone, it's boneless. It's just perfection on a plate. Oh, beef Wellington. Okay, and if you really want to impress me, my favorite places because Jansen don't have beef Wellington anymore because they're doing the prefix menu, which broke my heart. And now I don't know the next time I'm gonna ever have it there again. But Alpen Rose in Philadelphia. Okay, Alpen Rose, Michael Scholsten's Alpen Rose. That's right there in the neighborhood of Midtown Village. If you're homophobic, that beef Wellington in there is the bomb. That is one of my favorite. And I'm going to have a real moment now because the best beef Wellington I have, and I've had it in Vegas and I've had it in Atlantic City. That Hell's Kitchen beef Wellington, judge your cat, debate your cat. That Gordon Ramsay, and y'all know that was the originator of beef Wellington. But when I had it in Vegas at the Hell's Kitchen in Vegas, this was like a couple years ago, I was like, give me this. I never thought I would have it again. And then Mr. Johnson took me to Alpen Rose for my birthday about 2-3 years ago and surprised me because they have a beef Wellington that's also fantastic. That is it. I know what my favorite dish is. Beef Wellington. Take me somewhere with beef Wellington and you got a friend for life with me. Okay? Listen, I don't ask for much, but beef Wellington, that is it. And the beef Wellington at Alpen Rose is great. But if we're in Vegas or if we're in Atlantic City, take me to that Hell's Kitchen and get me some beef Wellington, okay? That is just, I need to go back to Alpen Rose again. We got to find a reason to go back. We have an anniversary. We're going to do something. We're going to do a DC anniversary weekend. Last year we did Chicago. The year before that we did Cleveland, Ohio. This year is going to be a DC one. And before you all start, listen, we'll get there in a minute about Trump. But I think it'll be, listen, I'm going to go. But yeah, just that was great. And then before we get into other things, we went to Borrobini. While the rest of you all were at Dinner and Blanc, which sidebar with Dinner and Blanc. Why is it that Dinner and Blanc, and it's 11th year in Philadelphia, seem not to have, it didn't rain, but it never seems to have a very like, I don't know. Dinner Blanc just seems to always not, like, it always happens on a day that is just not working with the city. I don't know. They had a Girard College, tacky, and I'm not going to go into a whole, discourse about why that is tacky, but it is tacky for so many reasons, especially that they're having it on Girard College, which has a very interesting history, a complicated history of race and poverty and all the things. But the fact that you all have it there, this event is not a charity event. There's no aspects of charity that's really connected to it in a very meaningful way. All those people, all that money, they bring their own shit. They wear all white and they go there and you're going to have it on that campus. Just so tacky. Tacky. Just tacky. If Jamarcus is listening right now, my little brother, he going to know when I say tacky, it is tacky. Okay? And it's always been tacky, but just a mess. But I feel like Dinner Blanc is trolling me. If you Google Dinner and Blanc right now, I'm going to do it. Well, I'm actually going to do it while I'm telling you this because I want you to see what I'm talking about. If you Google Dinner and Blanc right now, the first images that come up with Dinner and Blanc immediately on Dinner and Blanc's website is a picture of, not even their website, on Google, like the main image that comes up is a picture of me with a glass of champagne in all white at Franklin Square. And that is one of their like leading main images on Google. Is a picture of me with the Franklin Square lifting a balloon with the all white on and a glass of champagne. Now, somebody noticed and said that your pants look a little cream. Bitch, that is eggshell. But yes, it is. But yes, that was the all white affair. I will never go to Dinner and Blanc again. I do not like Dinner and Blanc. I do not like it at all. It is just cringy to me. It's tacky to me. It's just trash. If it was a charity component to it, I would actually like it. But they consider themselves a chic, large-scale picnic that began in Paris and now takes place annually in over 90 cities worldwide, including Philadelphia. I just find Dinner and Blanc to just be a tacky event, just on so many levels. But anyway, ever since Dinner and Blanc, I've always had something to do in lieu of Dinner and Blanc. And the funniest thing ever, shout out to them, is that the Borromini, the opening of the big, huge media party, the big old VIP sneak peek party of Borromini was on the same day as Dinner and Blanc. Okay, Cashman and Associates, Nicole Cashman, that's the PR firm that represents that restaurant, and Steven Starr. I said, well fucking played. Okay? They did that. Because I always wondered, and they answered that this was a $1 million question, was that if media had another place, another alternative to go rather than Dinner and Blanc, would they go? And the answer is hell yes. We would absolutely go. People used to always say, don't throw anything on the day of Dinner and Blanc because the media will not come. No one will come because Dinner and Blanc is blah, 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 blah. That might have been the case maybe 6 or 7 years ago. But now? Give me a reason. Give me a reason. Because everybody in media was up in there, okay? Alex Holly was there. CBS reporters were there. Miguel from NBC 10. All the media girls was there. Even food writers and food. Everybody was at the Borromini party, okay? And there were a couple of people, which they're not food journalists or anything, but some of these influencers, and it wasn't even me influencing the party, thank God. But there were a few that were invited, whatever, tacky as fuck. They come from Dinner and Blanc and showed up in their all white to the party. Tacky. And the people, and I'm not going to name names, but just tacky. That's tacky. You pick one. You don't do both. Just tacky. But that's the socialite things. I just thought that was tacky. I was out by them, but that was just tacky. So the Borromini restaurant, just to get into it, it is an Italian restaurant, 2 stories, 250-seat restaurant. It is the old Barnes & Noble and Rittenhouse. It's very expansive, 2 big major bars, Southern Italian cuisine, so very traditional, red sauces, pastas, seafood, steak, all of that. Very, very vibrant, very lively. It's a very showcase restaurant. So let me get into my thoughts. I tried some of the food. It wasn't a sit-down dinner. So let me just let that be known. It was not a sit-down dinner. This is like the umpteenth Steven Star restaurant. This is like another major one, but it's definitely a masterpiece. He invested $20 million into this. It took a year and a half to produce and to make it. So let me get into the restaurant itself. For starters, there is nothing about that restaurant that will make you think that it was a Barnes & Noble's in there. Baby, they gutted that motherfucker down. It is gorgeous. It is massive. It is beautiful. It is a beautiful restaurant. It is gorgeous. It is one of the best looking restaurants in Philadelphia. It is ambitious. It doesn't even feel like Philadelphia. Like when I walk in there, I'm like, where are we? Like you've seen some of the restaurants he's done in DC and other places. This is another level. Okay, so I will say on architecture, design, it's fabulous. It's fabulous. It is all that in a bag of chips when it comes to the space. Now, the food. What I had there was pasta stations and food. The food is not bad. Okay, let me just start by saying it. It is not horrible food. There was nothing that was not edible or delicious or whatever. What I want to say, because I know how some people get on expectations, and I want to temper expectations, and I might sound a little, because I'm in the food industry and a critic, and so, I'm not saying I'm elitist, I'm not saying I'm a snob, because I want to make sure I say this correctly and land this well. Okay, so if you are a food, and see, this is the thing too, baby, I don't like the word foodie. I just want to say that right now. I am not a foodie. I hate the word foodie. If you tell me, people come and say something, we're foodies. Let me tell you something right now. Baby, I'm a cuisine connoisseur. I am a food expert. Foodie is for children and for influencers and folks that just like to eat. That ain't what we do over here. That is just not how it works. This is a different type of ball game. Okay? I am not a foodie. Okay? I am something else, but we doing something different over here. Because there are people who just like to go places and eat. That's cute. But I'm on I'm a, what they say, cinephile. I'm a cuisinophile. Like I'm a deep, like I'm not just talking about something, oh, that tastes good or whatever. I got a little bit more. There's a history. And there's people that's like that. And so to those that are like that, let's not use the word foodie, because that's what influence is saying. Baby, we're not that. And there's no shade. But you know how people be like, oh, I'm a movie fan. Okay, so you just like going to the movies. That's cool, right? I guess that's what a foodie do. They like to go and eat. But a cinephile, right? And that's what I call myself, because I am to cinema and film, right? I am going into talking about the director. I'm talking about the millimeter film. I'm talking about the Oscar. I'm talking about the actors, the history, the context, the set, the design, like that's a cinephile, right? When I talk about restaurants and food, it is not just about, oh, this tastes good. There's a lot of other contexts in which I determine and judge a restaurant. This is some serious work, okay? So foodie, I am not. Restaurant enthusiast, cuisine connoisseur, we could do other words, but let's just not say foodie around here, okay? Because what I'm about to tell you all is going to take this to a different way of which I'm talking about this, because I have to weigh in how to give this review. So here's what I'm going to say about Borromini. It's no good, bad, and ugly. And I'm trying to make sure I say this right, because I know how you all do. You all would say, Ernest wasn't feeling it. And I'm not, nope, that's not true. That's not true. I need to make sure I say this correctly. Okay. On the surface level, no matter who you are in this city, the masses are going to love this restaurant. People are going to love this restaurant. The masses are going to love this restaurant, okay? Anybody from wherever you are in Philadelphia, this is like that master theme park of elegance that Steven Star is known for doing. Most of his restaurants have that appeal. People love Budokan. People love Park. People love, Barclay Prime, right? This is, people are going to, if you, this is that, right? So if you, no matter who you are, if you got a friend who don't go out often and you want to take them to a nice restaurant, Borromini is going to be that thing for them, right? That's going to take them there. If they are somebody who wants to go on a date night, you want to propose to your boo, you want to take them out for a cute date night, this will be a nice check off. This will be a nice thing to take them out to. Okay, if especially the younger folks on the my generation, actually, right? Like if everybody's gonna want to go here. Some people are gonna go here as their regular neighborhood restaurant. Some people might only go here for special occasions, given that the price point of location, right? So there is a unique communal quality to this restaurant that reminds me of all the other Steven Star restaurants, and that's what he does really, really well, right? And so there's going to be the menu is very, I don't want to say basic, but it's very familiar and communal, and that's going to be good because with a restaurant of 250 seats, you got to fill them fucking seats. And so in that regard, you're going to have something on that menu that you like. If you have a dinner party with friends, if you go on a date, if you got a picky eater, if you're 25 or 55 or 85, there is something on that menu that you can eat. It's going to taste familiar. It's going to taste like comfort. It's very simple, but yet it's done in a really good, decent way. Okay? So that's good. And a restaurant like that, we need restaurants like that in Philly, and I love it for that. Now, for some people that are restaurant enthusiasts like me, that's in this business, there is a certain way that you have this conversation about this restaurant, and there's ways that you do not have conversations about this restaurant. I want to be very clear about that. This is an Italian restaurant, but this is not the kind of restaurant that you say to somebody, oh, Borromini and Vetri. This is not Vetri. And I'm not comparing it in a good or bad way. I'm just saying that you need to be mindful about how you discuss this restaurant, because I can understand that $20 million Rittenhouse will make you think that, oh, we need to be having a certain kind of conversation about this restaurant, and what kind of conversation does this fit in? This does not fit in the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Vetri, Kalela conversation. It's not that kind of cuisine on that kind of scale. Now, venue-wise, scale, yes. But cuisine-wise, not the same scale. And that's not to say the food is bad. It is not bad. It's just that you have to have a different type of conversation. So, for example, no shade. When we're talking about Honeysuckle, right, on Broad Street, it's right across from South. There is a prestige to the cuisine of Honeysuckle that is trying to put in the conversation for James Beard Awards. South is not that kind of cuisine. It is great food, love the food, but we're not having that same conversation. So I would say, if I was making a comparison or just talking, is that South to Honeysuckle is Borromini to Vetri. Do we got that clear? Do we understand where I'm going with this? Okay? That's not to say it's bad. It's not. It's great. But just want you to reset your expectations. Because what I'm concerned about is that the grandeur of the restaurant itself, the venue, the beauty of it, will have people thinking and saying, and they go in there and eat the food, and they're going to say things like, it ain't Vetri though, it ain't this though. And you're going to start comparing it to Irwin's, and it's not that type of level of cuisine. It's not on that scale. And that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. Because sometimes you look, I go to Vetri, and it's gotta be, listen, first of all, the expense of Vetri Vetri is very pricey, but there's a certain move for that. And sometimes you don't want to, look, I'll say it like this. Sometimes you want to be made love to, and sometimes you just want to get a quickie. And sometimes you just want to be, let me keep it cute and classy. I think that this is that type. It's not made love to. It's not that. It's not petals on the bed. It's not lit candles. It's not necessarily a quickie. Let me be a little classy. It ain't a quickie either, okay? So then you're going to ask me, well, what is a quickie? Crybaby pasta? That's a quickie. That's a quickie. I would put that in the quickie category. This is more like a nicer upscale neighborhood restaurant level of Italian. This is pretty, this is nice. It's not going to break your bank, but you're still going to have a level of classy and refinements. And that's what Steven Starr does well. And that's what he's doing with Borromini for me. I don't know if I'm thinking, James Beard per se, but not necessarily for the food. Now, for the actual design, layout, space, maybe the bar program, the cocktails were pretty decent. It could possibly be that, but I just want people to just have the right direction of expectations. Because sometimes you can get caught up and go, oh, I've had this thing better. And it's like, that's not what it's trying to give. So I say all this to say that to me, the best way to describe this restaurant is that it is the Park for Italian cuisine. So you know how Park is a French restaurant that's also owned by Steven Starr across the street? He is giving Philly the Italian version of that experience. That is what Park is. We have another classic, but that is what it is. Now, is Park the best French in Philly? I personally don't think so. I do like it though. It is definitely very good French. It's good. But Philly has had better French restaurants. I think about one of my favorite ones that I always think about is Forcia. That's in Old City. Like, they're doing some really good French cuisine over there. Like, I love their French cuisine. Like, that is a really good French restaurant, right? I think the food there is better than Park. However, Park's overall investment in the ambiance experience, you're getting a 360 experience there. Some restaurants, you just go for the food because everything else about it isn't necessarily grand. Steven Starr is saying, I'm going to give you good food. I'm going to give you good food, right? It may not be the most spectacular, phenomenal food you've ever had in your life, but you're going to get a good damn meal. And for some people, let me be very real, because this is where I got to check myself with my level of class and experience. That will actually be some people's greatest meal. Because some people are just never going to go to Vetri and spend that kind of money. Some people are never going to go to some of these other places I'm talking about because they can't get a reservation, right? And so for some people, this will be the best or one of the greatest dinners they've had in the city. And so I have to be realistic about myself in that compared to the public. I could be able to look and say, okay, Ernest, you've been to all these restaurants and you know the spots. But I have to be realistic that for most people that will go in that restaurant, that will probably be in their top 3. And for that, it's already a hit for me. He's got another hit. He's got another blockbuster hit. This is going to be another smash hit for him. And because it hits all those elements. And you can see that. Even when I watch certain movies, right? I'll give y'all a good example. That is a movie that I think is overrated. And I can say this now because it already got its Oscars. It already did its big one. Oppenheimer. I was not crazy about it. I felt like it was overrated. I don't even think it's one of Christopher Nolan's greatest films. I just think it was a movie he needed to make to finally get Best Director and finally get his Oscar glory. Finally, Christopher Nolan finally won an Oscar. He won multiple Oscars that night. But I think that it is overrated. But when I saw it, right, I knew, oh, they're gonna eat this up. This is Oscar bait. They're gonna a biopic. They're gonna eat this up. And they did. I knew that Oppenheimer was going to be a bigger film. Not for me personally, but I knew it watching it, what it was going to do for the masses. So this is a restaurant for the masses. And this is a good restaurant for the masses. Because there's a lot of restaurants out here for the masses that are not that good. Okay? So let me just say that Steven Starr makes restaurants for the masses, but he makes good restaurants for the masses. And some of those restaurants are actually great. Like Morimoto is phenomenal, right? It's a really great spot. And Budokan for Asian cuisine in Philadelphia is a good spot too. I will say it might be a little bit above good. It's in the great category. And Park is just a historic Philadelphia institution, right? Barclay Prime, He's in that good to great with all of his restaurants in Philly for the most part. And so I do feel like this is going to get there and it's going to be another hit, But for the major food snobs, right? The food, food cinephiles like myself, for some of y'all who are going to go to this, please don't come in here making Vetri comparisons. Please don't come in here making Irwin comparisons. Please don't come in here comparing it to the cuisine of like Badino and, Polizzi and don't do that. Don't do that with this. We got a good thing here, Philly. Don't fuck this up. So that is my review on what I've had. Now I got to go back and sit down and have the full dinner. Now this is all, full disclaimer. This is my take on trying individual dishes. I have not had a sit down and have had a full meal yet, because that is not officially open until ding, 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 the day you listen to this podcast, August 25th. It officially opens to the public technically today if you're listening early. Okay? It's been friends and family and media before, but I want to be clear to just let you all know. Let's do that. Okay. So I've tried some dishes. I was feeling the steak. I was feeling some of the pasta. Like the cocktails. I like a lot of great comfort food. I have not had the full spread. I haven't had a full sit down dinner. Maybe my perspective might change. I want to go soon so I can be able to have that full experience, because maybe it is. But based on what I've had and just getting to the vibe, this is my early review of it. But I know people are going to start going this week. I just want you all to have a certain mindset coming in about what to expect with the cuisine and the food. So that's my very honest, earnest review. And I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see how it plays out. And I really do want to get back and really have a full-fledged dinner there, because I definitely think, there might be more for me to share and to tell. But based on what I had and what I saw and experienced, it's definitely giving blockbuster, an instant hit. So there's that. And then I went to A Kitchen for dinner early this week as well. Always a good time at A Kitchen. We was able to slide in and have a dinner after an event, and it was always good. And we ran into Ellen Yen, who I love. She's the restaurateur and owner of A Kitchen, and it was a great time. So just wanted to say that. And then some media appearances I made. I was on Around Town with Almond Brown, State Representative Almond Brown. I was on the show there. I did it on Classics, the radio station Classic. I was on that show, which is pretty fun. Talking about my career, promoting the Emerging Media Diversity Convention, which, by the way, if you are a core 500 listener, you listen to this podcast, just wanted to give you all the heads up that Monday, if you listen to the show on its initial release date, we're going to be announcing all of our 36 panelists and moderators that is going to be at the convention. We're going to do the whole listing of all of our talent, who's going to be in the room, who's going to be doing what workshops. The whole schedule and agenda is dropping on Monday this week. So you listen to this podcast. If you're listening before 12 o'clock, you're getting an exclusive, because it's not going to go out publicly until noon on our social media pages, everything like that, because it's timed. We schedule our posts. But I'm going to tell you as an exclusive, if you're listening to this show very, very late, if you're one of those early birds, you was up tonight, it was midnight, and you're listening at like 12 a.m., 1 a.m. or whatever, or you're listening in the morning, I'm telling you who some of the people that's going to be in these great panels. So we have a wide variety of talent that's going to be participating. Let me just say that 36 panelists and moderators. I'm excited to announce some of these people. So some of the big names that we're going to be having at this Emerging Media Diversity Convention is Josh Eats Philly, Ashanti Martin from WRD, Trinae Nuri, Taib Chappelle, Taib Smith, Manny Smith, all the Smiths, Kyron Riles, Miss Patty Jackson, myself, Mr. Johnson, right? Making his first, debut as the founder and CEO of Surefire Public Relations, Cassie Owens, which I'm super excited about. We have Bjorn Henriquez. We have Amber Douglas, who's a great influencer. We have Amanda St. Paul, the other Dr. Amanda, for those who know. James Peterson, Tiffany Bacon, POC, for those who know their incredible work that they're doing. We have Jimmy Williams, who is also doing some big things. Miss Sharon Cooks. We have Teresa Spencer. We have, looking down my list, my roster, so many people. We have, oh my goodness, Morgan Parrish from Fox 29. She just got to Philly, and she's going to be on it. We got Whitney Roberts, okay, from The Reclaimed, Whitney Roberts, a big, she's the Philly Down Low, big influencer. We got Megan Washington from City Council. We got Bjorn Henriquez. We got a bunch of different names that's going to be giving great wisdom and just so much. So it's going to be a really great hyper local, full of panels, full of great voices and um, people, and I just can't wait to be able to share it. The full list of talent and workshops and people who are going to be participating is going to be listed very soon. They're coming from all different media outlets and places. We got people from CCP, WRD, CBS News, Fox 29, CityCast, a good slate of voices that are going to be a part of this. 36, okay, 36. And the majority of them, with the exception of one person, actually, we only have one white person in the panels. Only one white person. That's interesting. Everybody else is either Black or Latinx. Only one white person in the entire thing. So 35 of our panelists are either Latinx or Black. But everybody that's participating in Emerging Media Diversity Convention is either or both LGBTQ, Black, Brown, that they all come from one of those three categories. And there is a very much intergenerational diversity, gender diversity. There are people who use they them pronouns that's going to be a part of this. There's going to be people that are coming from different career fields. There's a lot of diversity. Like, diversity is expansive in this Emerging Me Diversity Convention. There's people from different career paths, from academics to entrepreneurship to corporate media to freelance media to influencers to all of the things. We have a very diverse slate of talent. This was a very curated of list. I mean, we have people in their 20s, people in their 60s, people who have been in the industry for less than a year, people that's been in the industry for over 40 years. We have a very diverse wealth of knowledge, and the panels are great. The gender parity that I like about the panels is that each of the panels have 2 women and 2 men on each of the panels for gender parity. So all the panels we have, there's never going to be a domination of one gender or representation. Each panel has people from a variety of different generations. So there's not one panel that has all millennials or all Gen Xers or all boomers. There is a mix there too. Everything about curating this, and I am the executive producer of this convention. This is my baby. I was very intentional about that. Like, just where these people's walks of life, their voices, their experiences, how it shapes. And so when you look at this slate and this lineup, you'll see a lot of intentionality behind it. And that was important to me because I've gone to too many conferences, too many conventions where I don't see that. I don't see it. I don't see it in the programming, the marketing. And this is a love letter to just what a ideal dream conference can be and what it and how it can be. And for all of these individuals to volunteer their time to be a part of this experience and do that, I love that. I really do. This is inspiring. I want people to be inspired. I want people to really just understand that this is something that has not been done before and hopefully will disrupt the way that we do programming and talk about conventions moving forward. So I just can't say that enough. And I'm super excited about it. And again, tickets are on sale. You can go to our website and go to the link in my bio, spread the word, tell people about it, get people excited. If you're not interested and you can't go personally, if you know a young person that's under 40 that is interested in media, journalism, PR, communications, and they're looking for a space to find mentors, to learn and to grow and to network and to potentially walk out with some bags, this is the space for that. So it is September 26th to 27th. And the registrations and things are out, and we just want the word to be spread. So just continue to tell people. But it's just the excitement is building, the momentum is building. There's more surprises as we continue to gear up. So, just stay tuned. And then before I conclude, two big things. This past week, I received the teaching award from Community College of Philadelphia. They were honoring me for just we're getting ready. This upcoming week is Professional Development Week, because I start teaching classes next week, y'all. Like next week, Professor Ernest is back in the building. Yes, Professor Ernest is back. I'm back. Now, my students call me Professor Owens, but you know, but Professor Ernest is back in the building. I'm making my grand return, y'all. I'm ready. 4 classes. I'm teaching 4 classes this semester, which is going to be really, like I don't words can't even describe it, but it's going to be quite the journey. And so I'm looking forward to what's coming. But yeah, y'all, like it's been it's I'm already getting teaching awards, and now I'm an award-winning educator. Like, what does that mean? Like, what? Like, we doing journalism and we're doing, like, I'm just so in awe of everything. So, this is, yeah. So it was a surprise. I found out and went to there was a special invitation, and I'm over here with all the faculty and staff being recognized for what I'm doing for the students. And I was just like, who am I? Not that I'm having imposter syndrome, but I'm just like, damn, I'm doing it. So that just feels really good, because I really do love teaching, and I really do love, doing journalism, and just being able to combine this and expand what I do to make that impact. And the fact that it's being recognized by the college of is just great. And this will be a 1 year for me teaching there. I was at previously at Cheney, but to just be recognized and appreciated for what I do there already is just great. So I just can't wait to come back and teach and in person, and I got my online class I'm launching. This is really great. It's been an unexpected you know level of joy. Um, and also that brings me to something else before we get into hot topics, because there's a lot to talk about, as you all know. Um, this week, as you all saw on my social media, I am celebrating my 15th anniversary in Philadelphia. Like, my 15th anniversary in Philadelphia is here, and I'm like, what? Like, my 15-year anniversary? What's going on? Um, 15 years. 15 years in Philadelphia, which is an important part of my personal life, but also Philadelphia history. This day, 15 years ago, a bright, ambitious, young twink, no, I'm joking, person named Ernest Owens stepped foot in Philadelphia for the first time in my life. I did not do any of the pre-freshman seminars. I didn't do any of the other programs. I came to Philadelphia with a suitcase and a dream. My mom took me. It was just me and my mom, and we got off that plane. I remember when I got out of the airport, the first thing I saw coming down was a man who I jokingly said looked like Mr. Potato Head. And that was Mayor Nutter, with a banner that said, "Welcome to Philadelphia." I didn't meet him in person, but I saw his face. And I said, oh, and it didn't hit me that, oh, they got a black mayor. I said, oh, okay. And everything about that, coming down that escalator and seeing "Welcome to Philadelphia" with Michael Nutter's face, who I found in that moment was also a Penn alum, just made me feel like I was in the right city. And I have never left since. Never left. Came, saw, and conquered. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I did it. And 15 years later, I'm still here in this city. And I'm still in Best Philly. Oh, I'm sorry, West Philly. Same thing, Best Philly, West Philly. Still here. And achieved so much. And I had goals, and I shared it more candidly on my social media, on Instagram. I did a post and that picture, and y'all been talking about my looks lately, and y'all making me blush. Y'all need to stop. Y'all need to stop bragging. But like, they're like, wait, that picture was, yes, that was me 15 years ago. I was 18. And I'm looking, and like people are saying, you looking like you're going back to, like, I don't know. I don't know what it is. Okay. It's just good skincare. Maybe it's Maybelline. Maybe it's retinol and good genes. See, there go Dr. Park. She's gonna say, it's genes. It's not just water, Ernest. I'm like, well, okay. But also maintenance too, because black can crack if you don't maintain it. So let's be real about that. Okay. But the goal I had, I looked at my old goal list, which I did not share it on my Instagram. Like, y'all don't get to see everything, okay? But I kept a journal, and it was from 2010, and I had a list of things. And I was like, look, I wanted to graduate on time. These are my goals that I had. Now, the goals were I wanted to achieve this by 2010. Some of this stuff I did achieve by 2010. Some of this stuff I achieve now. But my goals were I wanted to graduate on time. I wanted to make real friends, and I put real in caps. And I did make real friends that I still have to this day. Um, I wanted to make a name for myself. I definitely did that. I wanted to make my family proud, which was important to me. I wanted to stay out of jail. I never been to jail, but I didn't want to go to jail. If you knew where I came from, you understand why I said that. But I didn't want to go to jail, which I did not go to jail. Okay, I've never been arrested. I never went to jail. Okay, I wanted to be an alpha. That did not happen in my 4 years. But look, 14 years later, it happened. Okay, so who's counting? I wanted to meet the love of my life. And I did. I got a husband. Who would have thought? Okay. I didn't say husband then because at that time, gay marriage was not legal. We didn't know how it was going to happen. I just wanted to say, I want to meet the love of my life. Okay. I want to get a boyfriend. I ended up walking away with a husband. So that did work out. I said I wanted to have a career. I didn't want to have a job. I wanted to have a career. And I remember when I was in high school, people used to always say, don't get a job, get a career. That did happen, right? I wanted to get into politics. Well, that kind of happened, right? I wanted to be the president of something. And I did. I am the president. I am in politics. I'm the president of the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists. So I guess that do count for something. But I did say that. I wanted to get into politics. And then I said that I never want to go back to my mama's house after graduating. That was a big deal for me. Like, I wanted to I wanted to go, like, I had a list, like, I didn't want to go back. Like, I wanted to basically be able to go straight into my career. I never wanted to go back because when I was growing up, I would hear stories. And again, there's no judgment here, but for me, I was like, I used to hear stories of people that they would graduate with a degree and then go to their parents' house because they couldn't find a job, they couldn't get off their feet, they couldn't do whatever. And I never wanted that to be my story because I left Houston and I did not want to go back to Houston. I don't want to go back to Texas because all of the people I knew back home, I just was like, if I did all of this to get out of here, if I were to go back and just be amongst the same people, like, what would that have meant? And there was so many high expectations for me. And so I always was like, once I left my mama's nest at 18, I did not want to go back. And so 15 years later, I could tell y'all that whether it was a 450 my studio apartment or now living where I live now, I ain't never had to go back home. Okay? I pay my own bills. I got shit. And even my brother just graduated from Temple. I was like, listen, we once we leave the house, we don't go back. And I'm happy about that. Like, I was able to mentor and grow up in a way that we grew up to be strong men, to grow out, get on our feet and do it, especially the schools we went to. And I'm not throwing shade, but there are some people maybe I'm throwing shade. Catch it. Let me clock that T real quick because let me say something, because there are some people that I went to Penn with that came from money, went to the fanciest private schools, and looked at me and was like, judging how I was going to make it and was acting like I was not as smart as I was. I was not as worthy as I was. I wasn't as deserving as I was, and was like very much acting like, what you're doing, what you're going to crash at your folks before you go and do what you do. And mind you, a lot of those kids, okay, that came from that money, came from those connections, they couldn't land an opportunity where they could be self-sufficient as an adult right out of college. They had to go back to daddy's little mansion and mom, they had to go back at home and work the family business and do all that. And I didn't have that. I did not. It was get rich or die trying over here. Okay? I had to get, once I got out that door, it wasn't that my mom and my family was not like, you can't come back home. Let me be very clear about that. But there was a level of, there was a lot of investment. There was a lot of sacrifices made for me to be able to get to that point, And so it was very important upon me to make it happen and make it happen. And so I did that. And so I'm proud to say that be able to say that once I graduated, you know, mommy wasn't paying no bills and no rent and doing all that for me. I was able to pay my way and take care of myself and get on my feet immediately. There was no going back. You know what I'm saying? Again, it could have happened, but again, I didn't want it to. And so that is something that above all the things, that was the most I was proud of, is that I was able to adult without any road bumps. And a lot of folks that are first generation college students and other people, y'all know what I'm talking about. To be able to go out and graduate, get your degree and get out in the field and do what you got to do. That was the biggest thing for me, that I was able to launch myself into a career and to start working and to be self-sufficient and make it happen. Okay, now I didn't waltz my ass into a house or expensive ass apartment, but you know what? That alone, to just jettison myself into adulthood and be able to do it and not look back, that to me is one of the things I'm the most proud about. That I was able to give myself that upward mobility and to learn those lessons and set myself up for that. And now my brother's in that place. He's got his own place. He's paying his bills. He's got a job, and that is what the best that you can hope for. Above all things, because a lot of people want to come out of the gate arriving. Sometimes you just got to get in, and we take that for granted. When I hear these stories right now in the press about a lot of these kids going to MIT, getting tech, want to get tech jobs, and they can't get this thing, and they got to go back home and whatever, I'm like, damn, And so sometimes if you've achieved that, if you was able to get out your parents' crib and get out and do some things and take care of yourself, that is an achievement. Because sometimes people feel like they got to already arrive and know what they want to do and all that. Sometimes that ain't the achievement. But the achievement to get out and get out there and take care of yourself and be a grown-ass adult, that deserves all of the rounds of applause. So I just want to say that, and I say that because school year is about to start. A lot of people are about to start college again, and go back to school and things. One of the things I always tell my students coming into their freshman years and starting their years in college, and this is the advice I will always tell people, please do it on your own terms the first time. Because it gets so much easier when you get to this point 15 years from now. That is the one thing I am so proud I did, is that I literally did it the way I wanted to do it the first time. And I tell you this right now, to this young person here, a parent that got a kid about to go to college, please get the fuck out your kids' way. Love your kids, take care of them, but let them do some things on their own. Because if you try to, strong arm their career path and journey, they will resent you for it. They will regret things. And they will feel like they never got to do it the way they wanted to, and and that will create problems. I am so happy that myself and my husband, we went into school and we did it the way we wanted to do it. We changed our minds. I came to Penn wanting to be a lawyer, wanting to be a politician, wanting to go in that direction. And my mind changed. And the beautiful thing is, I had the power to say, I want to be a comms major. I don't want to go into poli-sci. I don't want to go the pre-law path. I went to college. My mind changed, my passions changed, and I'm happy that I was able to change my mind and do it the way I want to do it. There are so many kids that I see out here, young people, that they feel trapped. Like they can't change their major, they can't change their mind, they can't change what they want to do with their careers, and they have to go through a path. And then somewhere in their 20s, they have a quarter life crisis where they just realize they hated it, they want to do it, and they got to defy their parents, and they're having resentment, and they're having all types of internal issues because they didn't do what they wanted to do the first time. Let your kids figure it out, okay? And I'm grateful that I had a family life and a parental structure that allowed me to have that agency. And so often it's not until you get older that you begin to realize some of those experiences, and that, in some ways that was good. Okay. So I just want to say that, and for those people that did not have that experience, take some time. It's never too late to redirect your life. Don't talk about what you could have done or what it should have could have did. But if you know what you want to do, it's never too late to change your mind. So I want to say that. Now let's get into hot topics. So look, Trump is having a lot right now. His new normal is a lot. Foreign affairs, he met Zelensky, which was not a circus this time because Zelensky came with some leaders from Europe that came there to back him up and make sure it wasn't the embarrassing situation he had with Trump a couple of months ago. So the conversations seemed to be a lot better, a lot more diplomatic. That was promising. And it was good to see, because, a lot of people were ready to really, question the ability of that. Could they work out? Could they work it out? Could there be a deal? So it's good to see that there was some diplomacy on that. We don't know how it's gonna play out, but at least Zelensky came in a different way, because there's a lot going on over there. The fact that we got all these wars going on between Russia and the Ukraine, like, it's a lot. And no one's winning that war, The fact that the Ukraine has been able to hold off like they've had and be able to not be completely taken over by Putin is an achievement. But like at this point, come on, So I'm happy to see, that's happening for sure. Now, outside of that, I have to say that Trump is continuing to deflect on so many issues, and his party and his supporters are beginning to question a lot. There is a situation I want to call Handgate. There is a lot of conspiracies about this glob of makeup on his hand. There's some issues going on with that hand. Have you all seen the hand? People think he's dying. People are beginning to have a conspiracy theory that they think Trump is dying. But there was makeup concealer on the hand, and there's some mismatch with the hand, and you've been hearing it, and people are worried about the palms, and there seems to be a staining of concealer on the hand that makes people question what's going on. So the White House revealed last month that he's been diagnosed with chronic venous insufficiency, CVI, after there was photos of his bruised right hand and cankles sparked some health concerns. This was around the 2025 FIFA World Cup. That was back in July 13th. Cleveland Clinic says that CVI causes mild symptoms such as swelling, but rarely lead to serious complications, okay? That is what the research says, apparently. And the Daily Beast has done a lot of extensive coverage on this. Now, his own doctors had said that was one explanation for the bruising. There was a memo there that said that this is consistent. This is what Sean Barbella, which is the president's physician, says about this. Quote, recent photos of the president have shown minor bruising on the back of his hand. That is what, was written in the memo by Sean Barbarella, who is the president's physician. Now, the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, said, this is consistent with minor soft tissue irritation from frequent handshaking and the use of aspirin, which is taken as part of a standard cardiovascular prevention regimen. So they're saying that a lot of frequent handshaking may be causing this. A lot of people are saying that, people are saying that the cankles that Trump have on his knees, that there's something going on here. I just want to be very clear. And, look, I'm going to give grace in a way that was not given to Biden, but I want to be very clear. Trump is 79 years old. He is a dirty Gemini. And not all Geminis are dirty, because I know Joe was like, hey, I know Joe. I get it. But Kanye is a dirty Gemini, okay? But Donald Trump is a dirty Gemini. He was born on June 14th, 1946. He is 79 years old. Some of this shit is just connected to age, y'all, Okay? But see, the problem is with Trump is that because he comes for people and gives no grace to a lot of folks, you be coming at people's neck that now people are not giving you that same level of grace and understanding. I don't know if he's had some underlying health issues. I don't know. Okay? I at one point thought it was more mental than physical, but I am not a physician. I am not a licensed medical expert. I cannot diagnose this man. And I'm not going to diagnose this man. And I hope that Dr. Parks, my bestie, okay, I hope when she listens to this, that she is able to say, you know, I love that every time on your podcast, Ernest, you always put a disclaimer because there's too many people out here influential that's diagnosing people and doing things. We got to stop doing that. So I am not going to play into that. However, this president do that to a lot of people. And now the chickens have come home to roost. What's going on? What's going on? Because, you know, him and Biden are not that far from age. Biden is 82 years old, okay? He's turning 83 on November 20th. He was born in 1942. So there's like a 4-year age. There's like a 3.5 year age difference between them, just like my husband and I. I'm a 3.5 years older than him. So, you know, there's a little distance there, but not too much, okay? But I say all this to say that this man is getting up there. He'll be 80 next year, Trump is. So some of this shit is just connected. But he's going to be like what? Like 82 by the time this is over? That's a lot. That's a lot. So there's a lot going on here. It's not looking good for him. You know, also this takeover shit. You know, it's just a lot going on. This whole takeover city thing. He's doing this big old takeover the city thing. You know, he's taking over DC. He's apparently trying to take over Chicago. There's a lot of takeovers he's trying to do. But let me get into the reason why there's a problem here. Trump's whole narrative has been that he wants to take over big cities, mostly blue cities in this way, to make them safe. And that the argument has been that safety will make people want to go outside again, go out again, go to restaurants again, do everything again. The restaurant community is saying that is not true, in the words of Mari, more than many times, okay? Restaurant reservations in D.C. has been tanking in the numbers. According to Open Table, which is a major restaurant reservation hub for D.C. and other major cities, including Philadelphia, they have noticed stagnant decline. I mean, by the double digits. There's been massive decline in restaurant reservations based on the fact that it appears that many restaurant goers are afraid to go. Are afraid to reserve. They're scared of all the drama that's going out there in DC. They're scared. It looks like a war land over there. DC restaurants are going through it, and the reservations are tanking. And this is a big deal. They're struggling right now, and they need, and so they're hoping that Restaurant Week, this upcoming week, DC Restaurant Week is happening, I guess, this week. DC is kicking off Summer Restaurant Week that's happening, and they're hoping that it happened this past week, but they're trying to get people to go back. Reservations are trying to go up a little bit after all this stuff going on. But the DC restaurant situation has plunged. They've said online reservations have dropped more than 25% following the announcement about federalizing the DC police. So they're hoping that the Restaurant Week situation right now that's been going on since last week is helping them with that. But it's a struggle. But what I'm getting to is that this is Trump's fault. Trump, you said that you would make DC safer. I don't necessarily know if you're doing that. That's one. Two, you said that you were doing it because of the restaurants and everyone else feeling unsafe, that now people will feel safe and go back to restaurants. Actually, people are doing the opposite of what is happening. Okay? It's actually making people not want to go. Okay? And also, it's impacting the staffing at these restaurants because some of these restaurants might have had, a lot of them have had people that are undocumented working there. Now, there is a workforce that is actually struggling. And not just in restaurants, but also some of these like mom and shop restaurant spots where people will do carry out. This is actually fucking up the economy. You're actually hurting their bottom line in the economy. You're actually not helping them. You're draining them of workforce. You're draining them of economic dollars that can boost these local businesses. You're actually doing the opposite of what you think you're doing. Oh, I can't wait to come back on somebody's Republican podcast or show because you all have pushed this narrative about safer streets, helping the economy. That's not what's happening. The numbers are showing a plunge. Over policing in this regard is not helping. You're scaring the fuck out of people, everyday people. What do you have to say for yourselves? Like, it's not helping anyone. It's not. So that's some things that I'm seeing for sure. Some that's what I'm noticing. And it's irking people, you know. So yeah, it's not a good look. It's not a good look. And I'm tired of people, trying to act like, oh, Trump is good, blah 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 blah. These numbers, this research is saying otherwise. Okay, it's not this takeover plan is not doing what you think it's doing, and yeah. And if he brings it to Chicago, I've heard about Maryland. The governor has spoken out on it. We're seeing what's happening there. Just some food for thought. Moving along, Democrats. I gotta say, I'm liking what I'm seeing with the Democrats across the country. Okay. There are some other concerns, but let me get here. Shout out to the Texas State Representative Nicole Collier, who stood her ground with the gerrymandering that's taking place. There is a lot of Democrats, state Democrats are coming back, but Democrats are really fighting hard in Texas, and they're really sending a message loud and clear. And I just want to shout out Nicole Collier, who refuses to take a knee and bow to what's happening right there in Texas. I got a fun fact for people that may not know this. There are more black people in the state of Texas than any other state in America. I'm going to say that again. Texas has the largest population of black people than any other state in America. That matters because black voters in certain cities like Dallas, like Houston, like Austin, in certain areas, more so in the Houston, Dallas, but across, the black vote matters. And sometimes we go back and forth about voting and things of that nature. But in certain states, right, there's a reason why. When people say voting doesn't matter, voting do matter. Even if sometimes we can't take over everything. If it didn't matter, they wouldn't do what they're doing to try to stop our votes. I just want to name that. To see black women consistently, black legislators, continue, it always got to be. What Nicole Collier did, she's a black woman. She's a Texas state representative. She's not a congressperson. She's a state rep in Texas. She knows that she's got to let her constituents know that she did what she could to fight back. That this is just bigger than just Jasmine Crockett, even though she's a congresswoman fighting a good fight. That this is a part of black Texas state reps and legislators. I wish, and I'm going to say this, and I know, but I wish the black state representatives in Pennsylvania had the level of boldness and strength and reluctance in Pennsylvania, the way that we're seeing what's happening in Texas. Because if we had that, if we made it known and we stood on that, and they're doing it with a governor that is threatening to arrest them. We got a Democratic governor in Pennsylvania, and we're dealing with a very annoying ass Republican Senate, state Senate. We need to declare, we need to make we need to fight back. We're not doing that right now, and that frustrates me. It really do. Because we're seeing what's happening in the West and the South right now. We need to fight back. I just want to make that known. Now, before I get into, I'm going to get into ugly before I get into the big Gavin Newsom conversation. Cuomo, the hypocrisy, Democrats. And I thought I was going to just talk about good things about Democrats, but there are some things that's concerning me. There's a lot of hypocrisy right now within the Democratic Party, and it's really with the establishment, right? You all sit up here and tell us vote blue no matter who, but y'all will not let it go about Mondani. Mondani is going to be the next mayor of New York City. Yes, a millennial is going to be, a Democratic Socialist millennial is going to be the next mayor of New York City. Get the fuck over it, okay? For all of you leaders that have not endorsed Mondani, that are continuing to play this game, your guy, okay, Cuomo, has already made it clear that he would love for Trump. He needs Trump support. It's been exposed. So all of the rhetoric about defeat Trump, defeat Trump, defeat Trump, how are you all supporting or cozying up or being complacent? Both of the leading Democratic candidates outside of Mondani are in bed with Trump in some kind of capacity. Eric Adams had already kissed Trump's ring to not be able to be, get convicted, right? He was an indicted mayor. Now his charges have been dropped. He kissed the ring. He is coalesced to Trump. Okay, he's capitulated to Trump. He's a sellout. Cuomo, the argument was, okay, Cuomo's a true blue Democrat. He may have fucked up in the past with the sexual harassment allegations, all that, but we still can like him. This man is also capitulated to Trump in different ways. He's in bed with that. So now, the only one left, if you want to play the Trump card, that's not in bed with Trump, that is Trump's worst nightmare in New York City, is Mondani. So if y'all don't get around and support this man, endorse this man, and vote blue no matter who, then you are hypocrites, and I don't want to hear it, Hakeem Jeffries. A coward. A coward. And this man, when the Democrats win the House, I hope that he does not, I hope someone challenges him for Speaker of the House. Because he does not deserve it. He's a sellout. And he does not deserve it. He really does not deserve it. And so I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear people talk about any of this shit with Trump. I don't. Because Cuomo is a sellout. He's a problem. And I don't want to hear it. So I'm just naming that right now. I'm putting that on the table. I'm calling it what it is. And I'm leaving it where it's at. I don't want to hear this nonsense. I really don't. What the helly? What the helly, as the kids say? What the helly? What's going on? What's going on there? So, yeah, this vote blue no matter who, y'all got to keep that same energy. Now, to Gavin Newsom. Gavin is doing some interesting things in California. Now, I know a couple of weeks ago, I was in his ass because he was doing some dumb shit. But I don't know, this little 180 he's done, he's back on track. And he is trolling Trump, and we love to see it. But not only is he trolling Trump, but now he's about to try to play the game with flipping the state, okay? He's like, look, let's go round for round, let's go bar for bar. If Texas can do it, California can too. He is looking into redistricting the maps. Now, the difference is that requires people to vote for it in California. California is a blue state. They can support this redistricting that will give California even more blue. Listen, let me tell you something. I had a conversation with a good political expert that I actually trust and hold in regard. And we were just talking about this situation because that also gives me the insight to inform, how I talk about on the podcast. One of the things that they mentioned to me is that what we continue to ignore is that the 21st century politics had changed. And it started not with Trump. We always keep talking about Trump. It's not Trump. This is 2000, the election of George W. Bush as president, that what we entered in the 21st century that changed politics forever is that we start talking about American politics and democracy as red states, blue states. He says to me that before the Bush era, the George W. Bush era, we didn't really do the blue state, red state situation. Like states could flip, states could be one way. A state that might go for one candidate may go different for another one. We never had this up and down. But when we get to the Bush era, we start noticing that there are states that are just guaranteed to be Republican. And we start citing them and treating them as that. And then we start calling we start having this rhetoric around flip states and battleground states, right? And we start using that rhetoric. And that other states will always just kind of be guaranteed Democrat and Republican, and that mindset really began to lock in heavily during the 2020 presidential election with all the drama that happened with the Supreme Court and Al Gore and all that, that it becomes in that moment that moving forward, there becomes a rhetoric of these are blue states, red states, these are guaranteed states. And everything else becomes what it is. So battleground states, which is basically states that we call states that we can flip, right? Like Pennsylvania is one of those states. Michigan is one of those states. Wisconsin, maybe, right? I guess that, there are certain battleground states or flip states that, whatever. And I guess there's 7 of them. I guess some people would say. But it's interesting, what are those states? But that became, that became the conversation. So swing states, basically. So the major swing states that people consider is Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And that is the 6 states right now, right? Those are the states. So it's 6. It used to be, 7 used to be, but I think some have moved. But those are the major ones, right? Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. We're going to keep hearing about those states, right? There was a time where Florida was in that conversation, but now we just don't count Florida anymore. So that's what I think the 7th was, Florida. And then Georgia was interesting because there was a time where Georgia was not in conversation, but it kind of varies. But we always look at Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Those will be the current ones that we're just going to always look at, the 6. So we didn't have that, back in the early 2000s. You just didn't really have, everything could be up for grabs at one point in time, right? But that's just not the case anymore. And so that started there. But Gavin, what he's doing in California with the congressional races can help change the outcome of the midterms. And so we're going to see what's happening there, but we're keeping our eyes on it. But Gavin is doing some big things. And I want to say this, though, to you purist ass progressives, get over yourselves, right? We're not going for perfection. We're going for precision. Precision, not perfection. Precision. Okay? And we need that right now more than we need someone that can be able to penetrate and get these votes. Somebody asked me, you think Gavin could win? And I said, I don't know. It's not up to us. Us. Okay? And I'm saying us as in black voters. Listen, we don't know what can happen. It's not up to us. It's up to white voters, actually. We're going to vote. We're going to do what we're going to do. We're going to always show up to the polls. But it's not up to us. And we got to be real about that. Like, look, I'm going to vote. But that's where I'm at, right? So precision is the quality and condition or fact of being exact and accurate, right? That's what I'm looking for. Accuracy and precision, right? It's not about perfection. If you want Gavin Newsom to be, he's not going to be all the things. And I'm okay with that. I'm living with the reality of, and I'm not talking about as a presidential candidate. I'm just talking about what he's doing, right? I'd like his precision. I don't need his perfection. I need his precision. And that's what we need to transition from perfection to precision. He is right now. He's dead on right now. His style, his approach, his whatever, I don't give a fuck about that. But he's right. What he's doing right now is right. What he's saying right now is right. He's in the right place. He's in the right zone. That is what we should be going for. Precision, not perfection. So that's my mindset. Progressives want people to say things the way they want them to say it, how they want them to be. We're past that point. Shut up with the purity, okay? And even with the moderates and their bullshit. Like Mondani isn't going to say everything right, but we're past that. I'm looking for precision. He's speaking to the people about what their needs are, right? He's talking about jobs, insecurity, hunger, poverty, upward mobility. That's what the voters care about right now, y'all. Okay? Respectfully, they don't care about people's position on Israel. Like, I just think there's a different set of priorities that both sides are doing that is not reading the room. So right now, moderate Democrats are acting like a major issue to voters is their position on Israel. It's not. Most American citizens and voters are not making a decision on Israel to shape their votes. Move the fuck on. I'm not saying that it's not an issue on the table. It's just not a dire issue. It's not the kind of issue that is going to make you go, oh my goodness, I'm not voting for this candidate because of their position on Israel. No one cares like that. It's not that big of a deal. Now, some candidates might care, some voters might care, but to be honest, asking this man about Israeli politics is not what voters care for. It's not. And so some of these Democrats that are getting big dollars and funding from AIPAC and other groups, you make it that issue because that's what your donor base is telling you. But that's not what the voters are telling you. And you all are showing your hand, Hakeem Jeffries. A lot of you all are showing your hand that you're trying to align your donors' priorities with the people's priorities. They don't align. And you're trying to force feed it on people. It does not align. Let it go. So the reason why you're not supporting Mondani is not because of his policies on supporting, people trying to come up in life. You're determining it by what AIPAC's agenda is. And so therefore that's making you get messy. Stop it. We all see what you all are doing. And that does not make any of us anti-Semitic for calling that out. Let's be very clear. Nice try. We're done with that. Stop calling people anti-Semitic. There is not one anti-Semitic bone in my body. Does that sound familiar? Have you heard that bone in my body point? Okay. Remember that. Okay? Because you know how people say, there's no racist bone in my body. Listen, if y'all can say that, I can say what I'm saying. Because the truth of the matter is that we're not talking about people's right to exist as a Jewish person. We're talking about other issues that are on a humanitarian crisis level. And y'all got to stop conflating those things and weaponizing those things. People are over it. People are over it. Because at this point, it's just like, stop it. That is not a top issue for most Americans. And as a Black person, if I was told that reparations is not an issue, it's not a top issue that I can't hold people to the reparations conversation. I've learned to get past that. It does matter to me, but I understand that most Democrats cannot run talking about reparations. It's not landing. Most Americans don't care. I've accepted that. It matters to me, and I would like to see movement on it. But if I cannot be able to get, a conversation about reparations, then why is it that certain policy lobby groups gets to force a unconcerted effort on a policy on an issue that does not directly impact most Americans in their everyday lives? I mean, hell, I can make an argument in favor of reparations, how that can really impact most American lives, especially as somebody who came from enslaved people on American soil. I'm a descendant of an American enslaved person. I don't like to use the word slaves. I'm trying not to use it. So y'all, like, as much as we can we not say slaves? Can we say enslaved people? Can we give them humanity? I'm just saying. Words do matter sometimes, y'all. So I am a descendant of an enslaved person in America, okay? I want to give them their peoplehood. To just reduce them to calling them a slave is just kind of like, But it's important, right? But here's the thing. I know that most Americans are not focused on that. I know that I cannot determine whether I support a candidate based on that. I have to grow up and have to look at the bigger picture at times. If I can do that, I am asking for Jewish voters. Because your Black voters, right, that you've been in community with have had to make that decision, right? I need you to recognize that you cannot determine your support for a candidate solely based on their stance on Israel alone. Now, let me be very clear. That does not mean that they need to be anti-Semitic, but it just means that you cannot make them, let's say that they may not be the strongest on your personal policies on Israel, but they're not anti-Semitic either, right? That's okay. Like, as long as they're not anti-Semitic. Like, look, there are some politicians that are not going to be strong on reparations, but they're not a racist for that. They're not a racist on that. I know they're not a racist, but I understand politics. And so what I'm saying here is The pandering that you're seeing from some of these Democrats on Israel is not because they care about it either. It is because the money of their donor base is largely influencing that position. And the problem is that you're hurting them politically because of the fact that if that's all they're taking stances on, they're missing a lot of more important issues that are impacting their demographics, specifically some of their bases. Some of these Democrats live in predominantly black districts and areas where that is not an issue, a priority and topic for them. If you're making them not be able to support like-minded candidates that are pressing those issues in their respective districts, the likelihood of them winning re-election becomes slimmer. And they might get a challenger that's more progressive, more aggressive on that issue, and you might lose them. So if you're strategic, you might say to yourself, you know what? I would rather support this candidate and not put them in a pressure to address this issue that might alienate them in their base, that they might lose it all. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I'll give an example. Wes Moore. Wes Moore is a black elected official. He is a black governor. He is not really pushing reparations. I get it. Do I care about reparations? Yes. But I'm not going to sit up here and really go after this man when I agree with 95% of Wes Moore. I agree with him. Okay? Personally, I wish that reparations was a priority, but I understand why he can't do it that way. And I have to give that man grace. So I like 95% of him. I'm going to take the W because I don't like shit. Most politicians, they don't even get an 80% from me. So I got to give him that. That's good. That's an A+. I'm cool with that. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for precision. I think that's what we got to be, right? With some of these candidates, not everybody, right? But I just think on a national level, I just get annoyed with some of you all where it's like, oh, Gavin Newsom is. Well, who the fuck do you like? What governor outside of Wes Moore is bringing that heat like Gavin Newsom is? Let's appreciate that and appreciate the wins and not hold people to these arbitrary, custom-made, preferences, because that's just not going to help any of us. I'm just keeping it 100. So now, into other news, because there's some other shit going on. AI continues to be out of control. Every week, have y'all noticed, are y'all following me on this, that there has been an uptick in people critiquing, there's a lot of people in an uptick critiquing AI. A lot of people are having AI concerns. I'm seeing it in the press. I'm noticing there's a lot of people just bringing up problems that they have with AI. AI is impacting people, taking their lives. It's a lot of different conversations. I'm just like, oh, I didn't even know this. But people, listen, there's a lot of issues happening right now with it. Like, people are talking about the problems with AI. Like, hey, AI is, leading people to have suicidal thoughts. There are people talking about dying, trying to pursue dating a person, an AI chatterbox. This older man, like a senior citizen, went down to New York to pursue a younger person based a chat box that wasn't a real person, ended up dying in the process. Like, just all types of bizarre stories. We're hearing about how it's impacting people's vernacular. Like, people are talking in AI talk, as they said. But it's just a lot of bad press. And I love this. I love it. ChatGPT, I love that we're having these conversations, because as much as people want to talk about, there's some people, and I'm not going to throw shade on somebody in Philly per se, but but there is a particular individual who is trying to make a name for themselves in the media community around AI. They want to be this voice around AI. And I don't want to call it a grift. I try to watch my mouth on the word grift. I try not to say it as often, but they are definitely trying to capitalize off of the AI in a way that I feel like is disingenuous. And also I think in a way that is just, you're not going to win people there. Like, you're like this ambassador for AI, talking about some restoring the human element or humanity of it. Child, but they want to be in the conversation so bad. They had a publication, a media company that did not necessarily, that flopped recently, and it's not doing what it was supposed to do, even though they got all this money and it didn't land the way they wanted to land. But nonetheless, they are, trying to reimagine and reassess themselves as AI person and this ChatGPT person, whatever. And I'm just kind of like, that ain't it. That ain't it. Read the room. Like, AI as technology. It's just bad for the environment. And it's actually fucking over impoverished Black communities to the point that water supply is actually being impacted by this negative. Like there's so much research on this. I encourage you all to do a deeper dive in this. But the amount of resources, like natural resources, that are happening at these AI think places, and they're putting them in areas of predominantly Black and brown communities and impoverished areas. They're fucking up people's water supply, y'all. Like, this is disgusting. The amount of resources that is being used by ChatGPT as a search engine, as all these things, is just very reckless and dangerous, and it's not good. I have nothing positive to say about ChatGPT. I have nothing positive to say about all this AI technology that's happening, because it's taking so much resources and is actually hurting the most impoverished people. So no, I don't support this. And I hope that that this negative press that's continuing to happen continues to push people away from using this technology, because it's not helping us in the ways that we think it is. It's more of a detriment than it is a good thing. Not a fan, and I'm happy that a lot of press and media is beginning to critique this. So, yeah, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. I have nothing nice to say. Um, and I'm being real with y'all. Like, I'm not beat for it. Because I've seen so much. I've seen so much. Chaos already with it, and just the stories I'm hearing, like the mental health issues, the paranoia. It's just not good. And it's like everyone's like, oh, we got to know how to contain and control it. The guy Sam Altman or whatever, who really made it mainstream at this level, he doesn't even know what to do with it at this point. Like, so how do you think you can? But this is the grift. This is the grift. This is the grift, because people know there's a lot of money right now. There's a lot of big money right now in trying to get people to embrace this technology. And I'm kind of like, not a fan. Not a fan. So when you hear me talking about, you know, whether this is good or bad, this is the stuff I'm talking about. You know, this is the stuff I'm talking about. So, yeah, just the more that you know. Cracker Barrel, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but what the helly, okay? Cracker Barrel has changed their logo, and now people are saying, oh, they've gotten woke. We need to go back to the old days, put the barrel on it and keep the cracker on it. No pun intended. But Cracker Barrel is a restaurant I grew up eating at when I was younger, in the South. They've had, I just never will forget their country fried chicken, their chicken fried steak. Oh, that was so good with the gravy. The food is good and very affordable in big ass portions. Hella racist, but if you went to certain locations, you could avoid that if you can. But the food is good though. The food is really, really good. But problematic as an institution. They had when I was growing up, they would say this is what they said, okay, not I, but they used to say all the time, that was the redneck inn. That was the rednecks steakhouse, okay? Redneck steakhouse is what they used to say in circles I grew up in, okay? Listen, it was not proper, but that's what they used to call it, okay? And they used to say, that's the sundown restaurant, okay? When the sun goes down, don't go there to eat. So I used to always remember when I was younger that, when I was growing up in the summers with my grandma and stuff, we used to go after church. But we would go on a Sunday. It would be a Sunday supper, okay? So you would go in the daytime. I don't know any black folks. Now, I don't know. I could be wrong. But growing up, I don't know any black folks that went to Cracker Barrel. And I'm talking about Arkansas, Marion, Arkansas, in the deep South, and Texas when I was going out there. I don't know any black people that would go at night, okay? I don't know any black people that went to the Cracker Barrel at night. I could be wrong. Byron Daniels, the raccoon, the Florida man, okay, who is out there, supporting Republicans with his annoying ass. He just gonna shuck and jive. But I don't know any black people growing up that went to Cracker Barrel for dinner at night. It was always an early supper. We would go around 5-ish, 4. But let me tell you, we would get up out of there. Sometimes we get the shit to go. But it was like we never went at night. That I remember. Just the stuff in your childhood that you remember. Like, I don't, but now it's in the news. But like, yeah, but the food was good. Okay, the food was good. But you got an early Sunday supper. Okay, you ate in the sunshine. You got brunch, breakfast. You did not eat dinner. You did not go there late at night. Because the barrels at Cracker Barrel was crackling. Okay. Just saying. So there's outrage about the logo design or whatever. But this just reminds me of just like these stupid ass culture wars. Like, again, like, what are we arguing about? Like, it's like you're fake manufacturing outrage. Like, this is not a real issue. But what's funny is that this is the hypocrisy. Like, ooh, Tammy Lauren, wish I wasn't on her show. Because she used to tease about how, oh, the whole Sydney Sweeney thing with the jeans from American Eagle. Oh, the libs are having a meltdown about something that's so not important. And I'm looking like, you conservatives are literally having a whole meltdown about a logo change. Like, y'all are showing y'all ass about a logo change. The logo is not doing anything. You're like, oh, woke this and woke that. Like, and you're blaming it on this woman who's there now, that's the CEO, the first woman. Like, all this crap. This is such a non-issue. So, we're moving on. Let's talk about some real issues. So, Target lost their CEO, right? The CEO stepped down. And Brian Cornell is the CEO, right? Last Wednesday, he's the chief executive. He announced he would step down, and he's been there for 12 years, right? And people were like, "Yay!" DEI is paying a price. That's what you get, right? And this is a victory. I got to tell you all that is not necessarily the case. Several reasons why. Because he's been there for 12 years. He is transitioning to the role of executive chairman. So here's an important part about this. He was a CEO. On the hierarchy at Target, there is a hierarchy of leadership. Executive chairman is the actual highest level. It's actually higher than the CEO. So in other words, this motherfucker got a promotion even though sales at Target is slumping. The boycott continues. Everybody was like, oh, the CEO's out. This is tangible change. We made progress. Actually, we did not, because the man who actually is now going to replace him is somebody who is now coming into the role who also was a part of the DEI cuts. Target has not learned their lesson, is what I'm getting to. Target has not learned their lesson. The boycotts continue. I think that they are trying to play off of him stepping down as CEO. They thought that was going to be a rebrand. I want you all to stay woke, okay? Because everybody talking about some woke is dead. No, it's not. We're still awake. And they're talking about some woke is broke. Actually, no, because clearly it's not, right? But there is a change in leadership. So the boycott at Target must continue. We're still not shopping at Target. It's still fuck Target, because that man has been promoted. Target said, only white men, only straight white men can continue to fail upward. This man, as CEO, made some stupid decisions that have made Target lose foot traffic and sales. And so you would think that the board and everyone would say, you got to go. They said, no, we want you to go up. So now he's making more money. He's got a promotion. And the guy that they put in place is still somebody who was complicit with the shit. So they didn't bring in no new leadership. They're keeping the same team. So they have not learned their lesson. So I just want to say that, because I don't want people getting excited and this, that, and the third, blah, 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 blah. Just saying. And I also want to say that the whole woke is broke is interesting, because we're going to stay on team with this, because we're going to get into Sydney Sweeney's behind in a minute. But everybody talked all that shit about how, oh, woke is broke, go woke, blah, 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 blah. The funny thing is that you all have not actually done anything to bolster the sales. For example, Ever since the Sydney Sweeney sale ads with American Eagle sales have actually declined. They're actually losing money. They're actually not doing as good as they were doing. Target is failing, right? So all these are not doing too well either. You know what everybody thought is that if you capitulate to Trump's anti-woke agenda, that you were going to get a new raise in new customers. Oh, so those Trumpers who wasn't going to Target already are still not going to Target. They just wanted y'all to get with the program. They were like, we just don't want black and gay shit. We don't want gay merchandise there. We don't want Black History Month shit there. We just don't want you to do it. We didn't say we were going to go there and shop. We just said we don't want you to do it. Oh, you thought you was going to get a new clientele. Oh, you thought you was going to replace the gays and the blacks and put these new people in there. Oh, that didn't happen? Okay. Oh, Tabitha, the mega people didn't want to buy your books and your shit there? Oh, okay. So basically, the answer isn't go woke, go broke. It's actually go mega, go down. Because actually, they didn't move the needle for you all. So it wasn't like a bunch of new people went to Target. Because I keep telling people, you got to understand the consumer psychology. People do not buy things in spite of. They buy things in favor of. I went to Target back in the day because they had products that were in favor of me. I went to support Telfar. I support Telfar because Telfar is pro-black, pro-queer, that I support it because. That's why I do it, right? I go to places because of something, not in favor of something. That's the problem with politics too, right? And so the issue is that consumers did not go, those mega people are not going to Target because they're anti something, right? Because also the other thing about Target was that Target did not become pro-mega in the sense of putting in ultra mega Trump shit. Now, if they put Trump shit in there in lieu of, like they sold Trump merch, then maybe you would have had an increase in sales from Target because then the mega folks would have said, oh, you're selling mega merch there. Target didn't do that. Target said no more black shit, no more gay shit, but they didn't say more Trump shit. They just said we're not selling something. So the Trumpers are like, yay, no diverse shit in Target. Yay. But they didn't go, I'm going to now support Target because of that. Y'all get what I'm saying, right? Like, you understand my logic here. So Target fucked up. You capitulated to Trump's policies, but you actually did not actually go all the way in. Like, the real, again, if I was, again, this is my communications management head coming in, right? If I were them, if you actually want to make up for this, and again, this is not my personal opinion, this is an expert, right? If you're talking marketing, you've lost your support base of marketers with you lost the customers, the black and LGBTQ customers, but mostly black, right? You lost those customers because you took their products out of your stores. They're not supporting you because now they view you as a mega store. Okay. That's what they believe you are. They're not going to support you because they don't have a reason to shop there anymore. Got it. Okay. If you're now going to be framed as a mega store, capitulating to Trump, you might as well sell Trump shit in there. Because the people that support Trump are not going to the store just because you stopped having black shit there. They're not supporting you because you don't have their shit there. So to be honest, Target, you're going to keep losing sales. You're never going to get the mega customers because you have nothing for them there. And now your reputation is still mega. You might as well sell mega shit in there and make some money if you're going to be a capitalist, okay? Because now you don't have anything there. Just saying. And the thing about Target is Target's not even going to do that because Target actually fears, I think, that their sales are going to get worse. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what to say. I think they're fucked. It's only going to get worse. Unless they completely go back to what they was previously doing. This is what happens when you sign a deal with the devil. And that's the same thing with American Eagle. Like American Eagle did Sydney Sweeney. Okay, you marketed this blonde, blue-eyed white girl. You tried to appeal with your jeans with her. The problem is that the demographic of mega supporters, the American Eagle does not have that kind of appeal to them. Like Sydney Sweeney is a liberal with a red hue, I believe. Like I don't personally think, I don't know her, but I think that based on the type of art that she's done as an actress, I don't think Sydney Sweeney is like a mega girl. I think, I mean, there is reports that she was a registered Republican. She might have voted for Trump, but I feel like she's one of those types that she's more subtle. Clearly, she's not running around here being like, Trump this, Trump that. She's not one of those other Hollywood celebrities that support Trump. She's not that, right? She's not a Julian Michaels type of energy, right? So, I think that there's that, right? There's a lot of issues playing into that. And I think that's shaping why some people might, view American Eagle as still being a liberal brand in spite of that marketing. And I think American Eagle, it's backfired because the controversy has turned off their actual customers that buy the product. And what's funny is it's not getting new customers either. So we're seeing that interesting shift between priorities and financing once again. I keep telling y'all that this whole go broke, go broke nonsense is not for the birds. It's just not. And now we're seeing this on both ends. But we'll talk more about that. So let's talk about Uncle Nearest. There's been a lot in the press about them for the past couple of weeks. And it's been a lot, I know personally Fawn Weaver, who is the CEO and, the master, leader that has really made Uncle Nearest what it is today. Also, their master blender, who I call Queen, but Queen Victoria Butler. And there's a lot happening, right? A Tennessee federal court ruled that Uncle Nearest will be turned over to a court-appointed receivership. So Farm Credit Mid-America, which is the company's primary lender, had filed a lawsuit because they're accusing the company of defaulting on a $108 million loan, accusing them of inflating their barrel inventory and overstating its reserves by $21 million. There's been rumors that she no longer owns Uncle Nearest. I'm referring to Fawn Weaver. But, she's made it clear that despite the receivership, she is still the owner of Uncle Nearest. And that is clear because there's been a lot of different articles and press, and people just don't understand how to read court documents. And they've made some very, problematic claims. And so this is what she says in her statement. She said on her Instagram post, but I'm going to read a quote. "Let me be clear. I built this company. I own this company. I run this company. And my leadership team, who have been with me for 6 to 8 years, are right here building alongside me. Our team remains unshaken and unmoved. If that ever changes, you'll hear it directly from me. And I know you will respond accordingly. All major challenges are inevitable in ownership. That's why so many tap out. And my number one piece of advice to would-be entrepreneurs is, if you are of the quitting kind, don't start, because entrepreneurialism will give you 100 reasons a day to quit. But strong leadership doesn't panic. It keeps steady. It keeps a steady, handy hand and moves forward." So it's very, inspirational, right? And, there's a lot of conversations. She's telling people, her message is to calm down. This isn't a big deal. These things happen all the time. However, there are people who are critical that says that this court-appointed receivership is a big deal, and that court-appointed receiverships are rare, and, that this isn't normal business, but it's oftentimes a last resort. And so there have been people who have online say that she's downplaying it, that Weaver is downplaying it, and, says that, that. So there's a woman named Casey Brown. She's a Black woman who went viral on social media, talking about how essentially Black folks have blind support of Black brands without ever holding them accountable. And she leads this with a personal experience that she had personally with Fawn Weaver. where basically she was, she met her. She drove 4 hours to meet with Fawn Weaver at her book signing. She was very excited. She, came with this mindset of bringing her favorite cigars and this genuine admiration, but said that the interaction was cold and dismissive, and that when she offered, this gift, that Fawn barely looked up and said, "I don't have space for that." Um, Apparently, she said that she made a light-handed comment about her quality, her camera quality, and said that Fawn apparently slid into her DMs with mean energy. That was not like the quote unquote Jesus loving persona she projects. And she starts with this example, and then it leads into her making this stronger critique about Uncle Nearest and the company and all this stuff, to the point where she says that we watch this pattern with Pinky Cole, T.D. Jenks, Tyler Perry, Bill Cosby, leaders who stumble while we protect image over truth. I have so many thoughts. And listen, I am someone who critiques folks. I do it. This is what I do. And let me be clear, because I know Fawn Weaver, and I do know Victoria Butler, and I do know them on a personal level and things. I want to make some things very clear in what I'm saying, because I'm not dismissing people's experiences, but I also want to put it in like an overall bigger picture. For starters, I do sometimes think that as a public figure myself, I do sometimes feel like in certain cases, right, public figures are not necessarily giving grace on interactions with people. And I'm saying there are certain things, right? There's certain ways to be, right? It's certain interactions that I get annoyed with because they just are oftentimes you're lauding, you're putting so much emotional weight on a person, where you could have a weird experience with a person or something, but sometimes I think it shapes the way that people go about everything else, where we're making this one thing a bigger leap. And I think it's just sometimes a little intellectually dishonest and unfair. And so, yes, there are some encounters where you can meet a celebrity and that person calls you a homophobic slur or something I've had experiences like that, or they steal something from you, or they grope you in an inappropriate way, right? Where there's just this really very clear, very flagrant violation and an ultimate disrespect, and there's no exception to that, and there's no great, those moments, that's fucked up, right? Where I've seen people have these encounters with a public figure. But then sometimes you can have a situation where these are chance encounters where they may have had a bad day, or maybe they was overwhelmed, or maybe they don't know you, and so maybe the way that you're coming at them at a time in which they're in a public space or something may not be. I've had situations where people have said things about me and my interactions, or said this and that and the third, and they didn't put it in full context, where two things can be true at the same time, but there's a lot of other things that's happening in the mix. So, for example, I was at a event. I was having dinner with my husband, and we were at, oh my goodness, where were we? Was it Friday, Saturday, Sunday? No. It was Vernick Fish. And it was not an anniversary. It was a celebration. I think this was right when he was transitioning, before he got, I think he had just got the job, or we knew he had just got the job at city council. And this was a couple years ago. I sometimes, when I'm at restaurants and I make reservations, I typically try to be somewhere that is not forward facing. So I don't really eat outside, because I know what kind of attention that brings. I try to go somewhere in the back of the restaurant, or somewhere quiet and more intimate. I don't like to be, whenever I go out to restaurants, if it's not a dinner party with friends, I like to be in a situation where I want some intimacy, some privacy. Someone who I don't know came up to me, or came and it was waved at me in a way. And I was trying really not to let them see me. I didn't want to wave back. So I did wave. But I did wave a little bit, but then I kept getting into my conversation, because Mr. Johnson, we were talking, we was on a date, and we was having an intimate moment. And so they come over and they're just like, hey, And I get annoyed when people do this thing where you do the disclaimer of, I know this might be awkward, whatever. If you're saying you know this might be awkward, it is awkward. Oh, I don't want to interrupt your dinner. You are interrupting my dinner. Like, these are like, you're already doing the things that you're saying. So I'm already kind of slightly annoyed, but I'm trying to keep a good face and being positive. And so they're just like, I just want to say I really like your work and your articles, whatever. And so they do that. And so I'm like, oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. I appreciate it. I want to get my dinner. Like, I'm doing that, right? And so then throughout the night, they kept coming by. And it was annoying. And so again, we try not to be, awkward or whatever like that. We try to, do, just, but it kept it. So at a certain point, they came back and I said, so I made a joke and they said, oh, I promise I won't bug you again. And I said, please don't. And I say in a way where I was like, I'm being funny, but I'm also being dead ass. Because at this point, I was annoyed. So this person goes on, I think after, like, mind you, the past happens. This is years ago. They make this remark when I leave Eater. They say, oh, good riddance to him. He's very, he might be friendly on social media, but he could be very mean and shady in person. I came up to tell him how much I appreciate his work and I just wanted him to know how much I was. And I was a fan and he just dismissed me. And it was like, and I recognize the face because I don't forget a face. I don't know a name, but I forget a face. And I was like, well, child, you was coming up. You came multiple times. At some point, who the fuck want to be annoyed at a dinner? Like, fuck off. So there's times where sometimes, like real rap, I'm at a place now where I remember one time I had a birthday dinner many years ago, which is why my birthday dinners, I now have at a private place, it's a private space where somebody saw that we had a dinner party, saw me and my group of friends, kept coming by, talking to my other friends to ask them what was going on. One of my friends was like, oh, I'm here for my friend's birthday. And they was like, is it for Ernest Owens? And they're like, yes. Oh, I know him. Can I come over there? And they're like, I don't know if I can, that's cool. I don't know, whatever. So they came over and tried to basically invite themselves to my party. Like they bought like me a drink and then tried to bring their other friends and like really tried to sit themselves and invite themselves to a dinner party. It was so awkward. And, at a certain point we was like, hey, this is somebody else's seat because everyone wasn't seated. Like, thanks for stopping by. Like, they bought me a drink and then they sat down in the seat and was like trying to have convo with me. And again, I wasn't trying to be rude, at that time, but like people can just sometimes just invade space. And sometimes like, look, you could have all these high regards for a person. And maybe you don't know what that person's having that day. Maybe they're overwhelmed. Maybe you're just also invading. Like, mind you, this is a book signing, so clearly it was nice. But you brought this person cigars they like. That's nice of you. That's kind. But that might be also a little too intrusive. Like maybe like it might be not the right time. And they said to you, look, I don't have the space for that. Like, hey, like they're here to do a job and do a book. Like that may not be, right? And sometimes you got to respect people's boundaries and not take it personal or call them cold or call them all these things. Everybody's not going to respond. And I even recognize that even with my own heroes, like people that I have admired as celebrities and fans, as I've gotten older, not to hold people to this pedestal of not recognizing that behind all of that good work, that there are people, that they have feelings, and they may have a good day, not have a good day, a great day, that sometimes they're just trying to navigate and move. And so for me, I try not to go out if I don't have a good mood, or I try not to, be all out and about at major public facing events if I'm preoccupied. But sometimes you got to get the job done. Sometimes you just have to go to something. Sometimes something might be going on, but you just have to still be present, and you just do. But it's like, can you not let somebody's best experience, again, in normal settings? I'm not talking about people groping, people being racist, being very disrespectful. Like there's never an excuse to just be mean or to just be completely and totally disrespectful, right? Like that's no excuse. But for moments when a person may not necessarily be the most bubbly or the most whatever you expect them to be, like, give them grace. Give them grace, because there's hundreds of people in their face on a regular basis that do whatever, right? And so when I heard that, I was just kind of like, but then to take it there and say, okay, on this person's most difficult time in their life, you want to now recap something like that to then go into this other thing. So then my question becomes, if you had a great experience with them, if you gave them the cigars and like it, if Casey Brown had that nice, fabulous time and it was a great time and it wasn't like that, would you be saying the same thing you're saying now? And based on how they framed this whole story, that was not it. So to me, I just feel like it's a reach. It's like kicking a dead horse. It's like dumping on a person when something's not there. I just think that's kind of fake. So, yeah, I think it's fake. I think it's personally fake. I think that it's fake. It's in my opinion, because it's like you could have done that a different way. Now, back to the situation at hand and everything going on with the suit. I know there's a gag order for Fawn Weaver that she can't share or say anything more publicly. She can't address the issue at hand legally. So when people are saying that she's downplaying, dismissing it, if you actually look into the case itself, she's actually has a gag order. She can't actually say anything legally about the details of the case and who's wrong and what's going on. She can't. You can only look at the court documents and see it. Like, she's legally not allowed to. So that's why she's talking the way that she's talking, because she literally has a gag order. Like, that's just part of the situation. The other thing is that looking at the case and looking at what I do know, what's been on record, is that some of this stems with a CFO that they had, they let go of, that they're saying played a role in some of this financial information being the problem, and that they got ahead of it by letting go of the CFO that was currently in the position, and that was what was driving it. They had a CFO, a chief financial officer, that they are accusing of mismanaging things that led to that person's termination, which is part of the reason why some of these accusations, some of these issues have occurred, but they're working on trying to reverse the course. All I'm saying is, I'm not saying that we can't look at these things and be critical or skeptical. We all should in our own ways. But I also think it's kind of fucked up and inappropriate to try to conflate and compare this woman to Bill Cosby, T.D. Jenks, and like that's just, to me, not the right way of looking at this. I think a lot of us are recognizing that two things can be true at the same time. Situations can happen, mistakes can happen. But at the same time, if it's a person that for overall has had a overall reputation of being nice or being a good person, no one's perfect, clearly. I'm damn sure ain't. I mean, you got your little incident with her, but now we're supposed to now all of a sudden just now look at her as if she's not a nice person because you had that one experience. Like, I just feel like there's been more better stories and positive vibes and impact of Fawn Weaver and that company than just these isolated incidents that now we're supposed to now just say this. Now, if there's a big expose that comes out, some big old story, like comparing her to Tyler Perry, come the fuck on. Like, these are people that have violated folks in the worst ways. We have not had any major reporting that suggests that this woman has done that. And so to me, it's not that people are blindly supporting this, but we're actually gracefully holding space for a person that does not have a reputation of this. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's a lot to take in, and it's like, I don't know, that shit right there. It's just like, nah. Because people say, well, don't you dare, Ernest? No, actually, I don't. Actually, I build a case. Actually, it's a bigger story. There's more to the story. There's a record. There's a this. That's not here with this. And if it were, shit, I'll be saying, well, damn, because y'all know I'm good for it. But that's not this, and that's why I feel like how I'm looking at this is I'm monitoring the situation. I want to believe the best out of folk. I want to lead with good intentions, especially with our people. But it's like, come on. So, yeah, just want to put that there. Also, in media changes, MSNBC is now MS Now. This is a major media change. That is a big deal. That is a big deal. That matters. And part of the reason why is some of this is based on the relationship. MSNBC no longer belongs to NBC, the NBC family, or NBC Universal. They now belong to a company called Vasant. And so in that trade-off, they cannot use MSNBC language the Peacock or any of that. NBC News and them are not in family with each other. It's now being shipped on there. Now the talent will cross over and transition, but there's a difference. There's a difference there. And I think that's an important thing. Because a lot of times folks will, get confused. So it's now called MS Now is what it's called. And the logo has changed. We don't got the rainbow. We don't got the peacock. It's a whole different branding. It's a whole different shakeup based on the current circumstances. So that is an important update I want y'all to know, because a lot of people were like asking me, like, what does this mean? What it means is that we're officially seeing the break between MSNBC and the Universal brand. So now MS Now is the same energy, I guess, but now will not have the NBC News resources, nor would it have the NBC Universal Comcast connection. So this is going to be its own separate thing. There's a company called Vasant, and they're going there. So that literally happened. There's a whole new logo. All is changed. So we're seeing some interesting changes in media, y'all. Stay woke. With local politics. Now let's get into the tea, because there's a lot going on right now. I'm going to start from least concern. Well, I don't know. Teacher strike in Philadelphia. We are still on the edge of our seats, because this is the week where all hell breaks loose. Kids are supposed to go back to school. Are our teachers going to get what the deal they need to get to make sure they can do that, right? We also are dealing with SEPTA. SEPTA, what's going on there? We still fighting. The SEPTA cuts are now in effect. There's some major transitions and some issues, because Harrisburg has still not worked out a deal. Now, Mayor Cheryl Parker, I will give her this. A lot of people are asking her that she should say more on this issue and talk on it. Yeah, y'all, she can, but at the end of the day, it's not going to necessarily help anything in many regards, because as the mayor, she can't necessarily double down. She don't want to piss off the Republicans who have to make this deal with Shapiro. She did do a press conference. She did speak in favor of it. Some people say, well, what about other plans? Are there any other alternative plans in lieu of this? It's really tough to call. It really is. But all I know is that all these legislators in Harrisburg that's out here playing around, y'all better get in there and get your ass out there and get that deal done, because this is crazy right now. We're about to enter a situation where it is going to impact students, including my students, right? Because as a community college professor, there's no on-campus living. So if you're at Penn or you're somewhere else, if you're on campus, the kids have to be on campus their first years. You're not relying on SEPTA to get you from point A to point B, right? You are on campus, so you're getting your education on the ground. But if you are a community college Philadelphia student that relies on public transportation, and you got to remember, we just had the union deal with them where SEPTA passes was included, there might be slower routes. There might be a situation where you can't get to point A to point B. It might impact their ability to show up to class. So that's another burden that needs to be, SEPTA. This is not just impacting, this is impacting a lot of people. And also, people don't understand about SEPTA too, is that, okay, look, I'm an Uber girl. I Uber everywhere. My husband has a car. We drive and stuff. Well, I don't drive. He drives, 'cause I don't know how to drive. I don't have a driver's license. But we're good, right? I haven't rode SEPTA in over 5 years. I know. Now, Mr. Johnson, when he was working for the city, and, his former boss was, Majority Leader Catherine Gilmore Richardson, he kind of had to always ride public because they was pushing SEPTA. So he always rode SEPTA to get to work. And it was easy because where we live and in the roots, he rode the bus. And I'm like, you rode the bus? I never rode the bus. I've never really rode the bus, SEPTA bus. I always used to ride the Market Frankfurt L. That's mostly like 90% of the time where I ever rode on SEPTA, it was always the Market Frankfurt L. That's all I needed to get to point A to point B. I will always go to Center City or I used to love those stops to get me to Old City, the University. That's all I rode. Okay, and that's when most of the time I was at Penn, and when I lived in my last place, I used to go to the 52nd Street station and then get on there and then get to Center City on 15th or get to the Gabriel on 13th or get to Old City. That was my favorite route. Okay, that was all. I always did that L. But all these other routes, these buses, all this other stuff, that is going to be crazy. Get it from point A. So yeah, this is impacting people, and I think people don't get how it impacts the restaurant industry. Your favorite service workers and people, they don't have fancy cars. They don't Uber everywhere. A lot of them, they rely on public transportation to get to work. If SEPTA is in a jam, this impacts the service workers. This impacts everybody, y'all. Like, I don't think people are really taking the time to understand how massive this is. You just keep thinking working class families. Well, you know what? That's what keeps this city afloat. Union workers and everybody else. So it's just this is a serious issue, and I just really hope they figure it out, because back to school is about to be in some serious trouble. And the unions, on top of that, is impeding on it. This is serious. This is serious. And so all these little jokes, these little social media memes, all this playing around y'all doing in Harrisburg, can y'all get serious? I need the senators, the Pennsylvania senators, the Democrats across, and get it together. Figure this out, because this is a lot. As much as you would think that would be the biggest news, in addition, right? There is some other news. Stacey Garrity, the Republican, okay? She's running for governor against Josh Shapiro. She's taking on Josh Shapiro next year. And I know a lot of y'all was like, well, isn't Doug Mastriano trying to do that? Yeah, but the difference here is that, you know, Stacey Garrity won a statewide race recently. She is the treasurer. She's the treasurer of Pennsylvania. She's the Pennsylvania treasurer right now. This woman got a significant amount of votes, like statewide votes, like on some Shapiro type. Like this woman, this is a little scary. I mean, she'd be the first female governor in Pennsylvania history. Now, a lot of people talking about Doug Mastriano, and when, like, we all knew Doug didn't win, he can't win shit. So we all know that in some cases, Shapiro versus Mastriano, I mean, we all could agree that Shapiro was going to win that. This Stacey Garrity woman, this is a little bit more complicated. Now, she is a mega Trumper. She is definitely a Trumper. Like, she's a January 6th insurrectionist supporter. She supporting these federal cuts that's hurting working families and everybody else in between. She's all the way mega, all the way. But there's a lot. You know, she is a big deal. She's been the treasurer since 2021. You know, she beat the incumbent Joe Torcella, who's a Democrat. She beat him in 2021. She beat an incumbent, you know, who had that seat. And that's right off the wave of a time where Joe Biden had won, you know, presidency. He won the presidency. And somebody like her came in after the blue wave came back around that time. So it's just interesting how she's been able to maintain power. And now she's going for governor. And it looks like the party is getting behind her over Doug Mastriano. So I have no concerns that she's going to be the Republican nominee. I mean, it's not official yet. There's still a primary. But the way that Shapiro's camp and everybody's moving, they're prepared for her to take it on. Because one thing about her is that she's been coming after Josh Shapiro, which means that she's already focused on next year. She's not even talking about Doug Mastriano. And it seems like most of the Republicans that I've seen online and just in general have been saying it's Garrity versus Shapiro. Like Doug Mastriano is done. Like he's still running, I mean, but he's not, like, Shapiro's got a serious situation on his hands. And now he got some business to focus on. And it's like, this has been a very interesting week for Shapiro, because the Chronicle of Higher Education wrote a very interesting piece talking about some of his mess. And this one that just came out talked about the University of Pennsylvania around the situation around the ousting of, Liz McGill, but also accusing him and saying in the story, reporting that he was in cahoots to spy on, him, and, he used a special privilege to get within the board of trustees to also influence the possibility of spying on pro-Palestinian students on Penn's campus. That he played a bigger hand in the ways in which the situation with the college students went down. Like, it's messy. It's very messy. There's been a lot of reporting on it recently, but Shapiro has been being messy. I have heard from sources, and again, I'm just talking, that he played his hand in trying to push Liz McGill out. That is something that we can all say. But also what's messy about it is that apparently he had a sense, what I've heard from sources, that he had a sense of knowing that Liz was going to go before he made that visit to Penhaleo and gave that speech. And that he actually tried to frame it, and this is how the media did it, right, is that it looked as though at the time when Liz McGill got asked a couple of years ago that Shapiro came down there to the campus, spoke about the concerns of anti-Semitism, spoke about, the board of trustees and what they need to do to step up to handle this issue, that it looked as though he was leading the charge and trying to force, Liz out. Like that he was the one that when he came there, his presence is what sparked her ousting. And that's how it was framed amongst his surrogates and supporters to like make it look like he took a stance on this issue and he came down there and he got it done. Well, what I'm hearing is that he was aware before he made that speech that the board of trustees was going to do it, and that to give Shapiro the credit, to act like Shapiro was the one who made it happen, would be actually false. That the board of trustees were already getting ready to get Liz out, and that actually Shapiro had a sense of that and knew that. And so basically him coming down there to do it, to beat the gun before she got officially sent out, was him trying to do a chest pump and frame it like he was the big dog that did it. Politicians, we've heard it before, this is what politicians do. And he actually might have done it recently in this situation, because I am about to tell you how this connects. See, this is messy work. And everybody doesn't understand. See, this is why I love Ernestly Speaking. I love my own podcast, because I can't sometimes get people together. I don't go back and forth anymore on Twitter with folks. I'm not about to sit up and argue with people on the internet anymore. There used to be a time where I would be like, oh my gosh, shut the fuck up. Sometimes I want to tell certain people that like, they just go and they just don't know. And I'm like, oh my God. But you know what I tell myself? I have thousands of people that listen to my podcast on a regular basis that, you know what, I would just state the record in a more clear and pristine way here. And I'll let you all connect the dots and I'll pick it up so I don't have to just go tit for tat with certain people. If they get it, they get it. If they don't, they don't. But sometimes people just hate. So I broke the story, the big story, because this is going to connect to Shapiro in a minute, and I'm going to put this all together. I broke the news officially that it's happening. That State Senator Sharif Street, who is the current Pennsylvania Democratic State Party chair, that he's stepping down from that seat. And not only is he stepping down from that seat, it's going to happen very soon. It's going to happen actually next week. It's going to happen around September 5th to the 6th. So get ready. Next week is happening, okay? That he's not only stepping down, but that Eugene DePasquale is going to have the seat. Yes, you've heard that name. That's the guy who recently ran for AG and lost to Dave Sunday. He was the guy who was in a very competitive Democratic primary last year. Keir Bradford Gray ran. A couple other people ran. It was very competitive. He won that primary. The Democratic primary became the Democratic nominee. But he lost for the race, and that was a situation. So he is now going to take this role. A lot of people are like, when I broke this news, I also framed it along the lines of that, sources I know said that, hey, this is interesting because of the fact that, Eugene was interested in running for Congress. There was a time where there was some talks about running for Congress because he is in Allegheny County, and in Allegheny County, that's Pittsburgh, and who was over there? Summer Lee. Summer Lee's there. There was chatter, earlier this summer, that there was a possibility that Eugene DePasquale might take on Summer Lee in the primary to try to get that congressional seat. Now, you got to remember, this man is a man who wanted to go to Congress. There is talk that he wanted to go to Congress. And honestly, people have argued that Summer Lee is a little vulnerable, right? Because there has been a lot of complaints from pro-Jewish PACs and groups and certain I wouldn't even say pro-Jewish. I mean, I would say pro-Israel more so, that they are very much not fond of her, and they're trying to find a reasonable challenger to go against her in the primaries next year, when she has to run for re-election. And so there has been an interest, a vested financial interest in trying to take somebody out that seat. And there has been chatter that Eugene DePasquale just ran a statewide race and has had some success in the past winning statewide races, that he could easily win that congressional seat, or he'll put up a good fight. Well, apparently that went away. That just kind of soured. It was no interest there. And I was always wondering, in the back of my mind, I was thinking, well, if he's not going to do that, what is he going to do? Where is he going to go? How's this going to work? And enter Sharif Street running for Congress, which then means that there is a strong likelihood, right, that this man cannot be a congressional member and then still run this as a state party, Democratic Party leader, right? So he can't do both, right? There will be a conflict of interest, and there's a lot of FCC regulations and things like that. So that is a legit fact. Here's the mess, and here's what I'm going to tell you from what I've heard from sources, and I can add this up. Some of you all may read the Philadelphia Inquirer or don't. If you don't read it, I get it, because that's another talk for another day. But anywho, there was a real big story that just really kind of painted this conflict around Josh Shapiro's team. Josh wanted to speak out and really talk about, the balancing of ethics and politics. And he wants to take this bold stance on, basically saying that this is, he's concerned about the fact that a person can run for Congress and run the party, and he doesn't like that, and da-da-da-da-da-da. So Shapiro's going this whole tirade and this whole thing, and there's a lot of press and a lot of lead. And so this then creates problems, because everyone's asking Sharif Street, like, hey, you got to step down. Well, what is Shapiro saying? Like, Shapiro's taking this lead on this ethical issue, because Shapiro, for a long time, personally, has never liked the idea, regardless of whether it's ethical or not. He never liked elected officials serving in running the parties, right? And so that's interesting, but I'm not going to go there. Ernest, stay focused. I'm going to stay focused, because I wanted to say that's interesting. But he never wanted, he's never liked, apparently, elected officials, whether they're running for another office or not, to be in that state seat, to lead the state party. He's not a fan of it. So let's go back a couple years ago with Sharif Street, where when Sharif Street was running for the party chairmanship, Sharif Street was a state senator. He made the argument that he did not like that. He wanted to push Jerry Lawrence. Well, his guy who ran the state party did not win. Sharif Street won as a state senator. He won. So when he heard that Sharif Street was running, he wanted so badly to sink his teeth in and start this fight again. But here's what I heard from insiders and close sources. Shapiro and Sharif Street already had that conversation before that article went out. Shapiro had already allegedly heard and already knew that Sharif Street was going to step down. They already knew. He already knew. So to even entertain an article, or for whomever from that camp, because I'm going to say it, to tip it off, is a situation where Shapiro, once again, may or may not be playing his fucking hand and trying to make himself appear more powerful and have his little wagging. It reminds me of the situation with Penn. You knew the Board of Trustees, allegedly, was going to take Liz McGill out that seat. But rather than wait and just let them do what they do, you got to always be pompous and put yourself up front and make yourself look like you're the big guy. So that you can take that credit, so that your donors and your people could say, look at Shapiro taking his stance and using his influence. He didn't have to go to do a press conference at Penn and do it like that. He didn't have to say all of that. He knew what was happening. And to be honest, if it wasn't going to happen, I don't necessarily know if he would have did it that way. How convenient. How convenient. But he has a track record of doing this type of stuff. A track record. I could go down so many times. Not going to do it on this podcast, but I want to make these connections here. So let's go back to the Sharif Street situation. So he basically, from what I've been told from close sources, very close sources, is that Sharif and him had a conversation about the whole issue. And that in that conversation, allegedly, Sharif had already made it known that he was going to step down and that, there was going to be a process. Now, here's what also I've been told. is that Shapiro wanted Eugene DePasquale. It was not Sharif's idea. It was not Sharif's succession plan. It was not that. That this was Shapiro's person that he wants in that seat. And the reason why he wants him in the seat is that it's a compromise. Because here's the thing. If Sharif's stepping down, Sharif can influence, right, the outcome of that race, right? Because let's be clear, the delegates at the Democratic state level, they're going to have a meeting, right, on September 5th to the 6th. They're going to have a meeting. They're going to have a gathering. And so they got to, one, accept this resignation from Sharif Street, but they also have to figure out who's going to be next to get the nomination or get their support for that thing. So there's going to be like a special election type of situation, apparently. Eugene is going to get the nomination from the state party. He's going to be the next party leader chair, like that for the state. That's going to happen, y'all. I mean, unless something catastrophic or scandalous happens, it's pretty much a done deal. The thing is that Shapiro wants to pick his guy. And finally, Shapiro gets to pick his guy. And guess what? Eugene DePasquale does not have any elected seat right now. So, this is the guy he would want. And he's from Allegheny County. And, it's not Philadelphia County. And he likes this man and he wants to have what he wants. So that is why this is going to happen. Now, here's the other thing, though. You're going to say, well, why Sharif is not fighting the fight? Sharif also likes Eugene DePasquale. Like, they have a good relationship. So this is somebody that Shapiro and Street can both come to terms with. And right now, let's look at the bigger picture, because there's a bigger picture here. So for all you people on the internet being like, Ernest, you're just making this more deep than what it is. Listen, if you want to be basic and surface level and you want the Cliff Notes and the Inquirer version, you go take your basic, non-sophisticated ass over there and you just go get the basic shit. Yes, I fucking knew that Sharif had to go because of conflict of interest. We all fucking know that. Duh. But there's more context here that makes this more interesting. And if you're not a deep thinker, it's okay. You could just be basic and you could just stay on there and you could just read whatever the fuck press releases you get from these candidates. However, for those that are into intellectual, political, insider, understanding how these things work, that's why you listen to Ernestly speaking. Thank you, and let me fucking continue. So, here's the bigger picture here. Shapiro needs as much support as possible. He needs as much support. He needs to get as much support. To have somebody like Eugene DePasquale as the lead of the party is a perfect situation for him because he's going to need that. Second, we don't need that much infighting within the Democratic Party any fucking way, because that's not going to help anybody get what they want. Nobody's going to be happy with those results. We just don't need it, especially now that Stacey Garrity is coming to the race, okay? Once Stacey Garrity entered the chat, all this shit needs to be wrapped up, right? So that's one important thing. Second of all, we cannot ignore, since people act like I don't get this, is that Sharif Street is currently running for Congress. He does not really want, from close sources, he would like there to be a special election because Dwight Evans has not necessarily decided to retire. And, well, he's going to retire. He's not going to run a second term, but if he retires earlier, that allows for the seat to be more procured, right? A lot of people would like Dwight Evans, respectfully, to retire. Because if he retires before September 5th, like September 5th and 6th is very important. This is a very important moment in politics. Let me explain why. Because not only is Sharif stepping down, that is also around the same deadline, okay, that Sharif Street, Dwight Evans has to officially retire because he has to do it 90 days. So a special election can be called. It has to be called 90 days before the general election of this year. So the general election of this year, of 2025, I want to make sure y'all know this date is going to be on November 4th. Okay? Basically, November 4th. So basically Beyonce's birthday is September 4th. I think it's or September 1st, or is it the 5th of September? It's one of those days. But basically, he's got to do it around that time. So for Sharif Street, this is probably one of the most important dates of his political career. Because not only between September 5th and 6th does he has to step down so Eugene can get it, so he can not violate any FCC shit, right? He also, that's going to be around the same time that Dwight Evans has to resign in order for there to be a special election to which we all know that the Democratic City Committee is going to make him the nominee, which means he's going to lock in that congressional seat, which means that anybody else who's thinking about running for that midterm, they don't probably got a chance. That is why people like Morgan Cephas, who y'all keep saying, she is waiting. Because if Dwight Evans does not retire and there's no special election, Morgan Cephas is most likely going to announce, what I've heard from close sources, that she might make her big announcement at CBC Weekend on September 27th. On Saturday, September 27th, during CBC Weekend, that's a Congressional Black Caucus weekend, Morgan Cephas might announce that she's running for Congress during that time. There's going to be an event, I'm hearing that there might be an event. I might hear there might be some stuff going on. There might be some heavy fundraising, some stuff. But that is going to be the time to roll out. We're not waiting till Pennsylvania Society, Peace Society. They're going to start now. But that is only going to be if there is no special election. I hear from close sources to her camp that she is waiting to see if Dwight Evans retire. Because if he does retire, then that means a special election will be called. The party will get around Sharif Street. And maybe Shapiro might even get around him. See how convenient this is? And that they will coalesce around Sharif. And then he will get the nomination. He will win. And he will be Congressman Sharif Street when this is said and done. By the fall of this year, we will have a new congressman and we have a special election and a lot of shit gonna shake up. Who will replace him for state senator? Maybe Elisa Richardson. I'm just thinking out loud. Because remember, Elisa Richardson was supposed to, kind of have that city council seat and everything. But then Jay Young got it and, where did she go? She's still in the mix. She might end up taking this state senator seat possibly. So there's a lot of politics moving, but these dates are very important, okay? And you're hearing it here first, and that is why I am proud to say I broke that story, and now it's an Ernestly Speaking exclusive. So this is what I'm telling you what's about to play. I'm putting you all on game right now. You don't got to hear from anybody else. You don't got to go anywhere else, but I'm adding this stuff up for you. This is the playbook. This is the blueprint. See, I can't say all that on social media because I don't got time. And sometimes I'm actually like, look, this is my podcast. I want you to listen to it, right? But this is the breakdown. So now you can go and start looking at it. Watch what happens this week. This week, what I said and what I broke on Saturday will be the news this week. The inquiring folks will finally be able to not break it, but they'll be able to share it and y'all will be discussing it. But the rollout is coming this week very, very soon. So you'll be knowing more about it. But here's the thing. I told you first, which makes you want to think to yourself, why do we spend all this? Let me be quiet. So watch out for next week. Next week, we're going to be monitoring what happens next week. September 5th and 6th are some big ass dates. Okay, we got to see what happens politically. We got to see the island. We got to keep our eyes on the prize. We got to keep our hands on the swivel, but we got to stay woke. Okay, so that's all for now. I think that's all I want to say right now. I want to say some more, but maybe I'll surprise you all. Maybe I'll surprise y'all. Maybe something special might happen. All right. Now, this week's Ask Ernest. It kind of connects with everything else I've been talking about this week, but we're in a very interesting time, just in general, in politics, in life, in society. And I think a piece of advice, because everybody's about to get ready to go back to work. Everybody's about to get back to school for some folks. Some people are about to relaunch the fourth quarter in a different way. And I think the number one thing that I want to recommend people as you all begin to embark on this next chapter in the final fourth quarter of the year of 2025. I'm taking a pause because I just really want to get this out. Can we start owning our decisions? And that's a strong thing, right? Can we start owning our decisions? Good and bad, because there's people that don't own their good decisions too, right? They give it to somebody else. But what I mean by this is too often people will make decisions, accept things, do things, and they oftentimes want to always point the finger or scapegoat other folks or other circumstances to justify why they did what they did. When you know better, you do better. And if you knew better, don't tell me about somebody else. Don't tell me about another institution. Don't tell me about this, that, and the third. Own the decisions that you've made. I've been doing that lately. I've always been good on that. I guess the word is called accountability. But like in situations where I really do think there's a lot of power in that, right? Because you can be able to, when you own your decisions, even good decisions or bad decisions, right? The good decisions I've made, right? I will say, like, in my own career, like I made a decision very early in my career that I was not interested in working full time for a media company, like one media company. Like I would never work full time. I've always either did part-time, contract, stuff like that, but I've never did. And that's a good decision I owned. Because when I look at the state of journalism today, when I look at a lot of the things that have happened in the industry over the years, and especially this year, it reminds me why I never wanted to give my full self to a company or a brand. So that is a decision, a good decision I will own. A bad decision that I own, which was many years ago, not now, is that I thought that I could award myself into the respect of people, that I could get a certain title and position and get positions and titles that would align me in a way that would get me a level of respect. And so early in my career, I used to chase titles and things. And to this day, I have a lot of titles and positions. I don't chase them. Let me be very clear. I don't chase them. Like I do what I do now because I want to do it. If I choose to be a leader, if I choose to be on a board, if I choose to be a president of something or run something, be a VP or whatever, I do it because it's something I'm actually genuinely interested in. When I was younger, however, in a career, I was doing things, getting positions, taking certain roles that weren't necessarily interesting to me, not necessarily I did, or even going to certain places and doing certain things that were not necessarily an interest to me, but I felt like I had to do it, or to get a certain title or position, or get a brand, to get a cosign, so that I thought would give me a level of respect. Like people respect me in a certain way and do. What I've learned is that the people that you're trying to gather or get that type of respect from, they don't like you. Because sometimes they might just be jealous of you, or sometimes you're just not their cup of tea. And what you'll find is that those people, rather than just say, I simply don't like you, for various reasons. I just don't like you because you're just not my cup of tea, right? Or it could be I don't like you because you're black. I don't like you because you're gay. I don't like you because you're outspoken. I just don't like you because you're a young, smart aleck. There's a lot of reasons why people cannot like somebody, right? A lot of reasons, right? Whatever it is, if a person does not like you or they're set on that, thinking that you can change your lot in life to make them in that type of way or care enough to do all that is never going to be the thing. Because what I found in my early half of my career was that a lot of these people just move the goalpost. And so you're steady thinking that you got to do this thing, and you're just realizing, wait a minute, who gives them the right? Why am I chasing them? Why am I doing this? Why am I trying to get in these certain circles? Like, why am I doing all these things? Like, you start to realize, like, you have to own who you are and appreciate who you are and not feel like you have to change anything. There's a lot of, like, the number one annoying thing is I don't like when people call me a troublemaker. It's so fucking annoying. It's so fucking lazy. And it's very anti-black, to be honest. And let me be very clear. There's some people that say in the, what I would say, Bayard Rustin way, or the John, that way, right? Where the John Lewis way, where you're like making good trouble, being an angelic troublemaker, right? I get that, right? But most of those people that say that to me are what I call comrades in this fight. So they're making trouble too. We're doing it together. But it's nothing like some annoying ass, pompous ass, wannabe whatever, come to me like, you ain't getting in trouble, are you? It's like, shut the fuck up. The trouble that I'm getting into, quote unquote, is the trouble that is trying to liberate people, free people, speak truth to power, and do their damn thing. What if you're not making that kind of trouble in 2025? What the fuck are you doing? Are we on the same fucking planet? You token ass basic. It just annoys me. And what annoys me is when Democratic elected officials do that to me. You staying out of trouble? Motherfucker, you got indictments. I've never had an indictment. I've never been convicted of crime. I've never been arrested. I've never had a criminal record. Who the fuck? I'm just going to say, and I'm not going to name names, but a certain somebody one time came up to me recently and said, you staying out of trouble? Sir, you have an indictment. You had an indictment. Now, let me say this. You've never been arrested or convicted. But, sir, you've been indicted for a crime. Don't you ever come to me and ask me on some shit about are you staying out of trouble? You getting out of trouble? Like, what do you mean by that? That is so, like, and then the thing is, you don't even cause good trouble. So who are you to sit up here and talk to me like that? Like, sir, put some respect. And see, it's the backhanded compliments too, where people, like, rather than just simply say, you know, hey man, you out here doing the work, you out here making a good impact, you out here, you know, making things happen, you out here making, impact and change. You never say this to these white boys. Not that I'm trying to compare myself to a white boy, but there's a racialized double standard. I never hear people tell white people or white men, right? They never tell them, oh, you out here getting in trouble in a good way and a positive affirmation. They would never play with them like that. You will never hear them tell David Adelman, you're a troublemaker in a good, positive light. Like, they will never even play with him like that. If you're calling, like, say the thing. Like, why do people do that? Like, oh, it's very paternalistic. It's very backhanded. And I'm at a point now where I don't allow people to talk to me that kind of way anymore. I don't. I stop them. I check somebody. I check leaders. I check folks. Like, when they come with me with that energy, because I know it's backhanded. Like, just say I'm doing the thing. Just say I'm doing good. Like, stop that. Like, stop calling kids. Like, I see this with kids, right? Black youth, black boys. Why do we always criminalize black people's behavior, right? Do we notice that, how we talk to each other? It's like, why do everything that is framed with us carries a negative connotation? And words do actually matter. You know that, right? That is why John Lewis said good trouble. That is why Bayard Rustin said angelic troublemakers. If you're just calling someone a troublemaker and causing trouble and you don't put a qualifier on that, what is the difference? And what I've learned is, to these politicians, there's actually no difference. They actually do see me as a troublemaker. They actually do see me as a problem. They actually do criminalize me on purpose because they're threatened by me. But that makes you think about the power and politics of black men, and even black women, of course, is that you got people out here that are robbing people, shooting people, selling drugs, and fucking people in the community. And there are people that do that, and they're called a troublemaker, and they're called a problem, right? But then you also have educated, thoughtful, smart, intellectual black men that are doing service and doing work in communities, that are uplifting communities, that speaking truth to power, that's doing work with dignity and respect, and they're also being called troublemakers and starting trouble. Why are we both getting the same mugshot when we're doing two different things? So I need people to own your decisions and own yourself. I'm not letting anybody define my story. If you want to do that in private rooms and group chats, go at it. But when you're around me, you're going to address me as such. You could call me a bad, but you can't call me a bad bitch. Now, some of y'all can't call me that. No, don't do that. But some of y'all who know me, you know what it is. If you community, yeah, you call me a bad bitch. But you better put something there. If you're going to call me a troublemaker, you better put angelic troublemaker. You better say starting trouble, you better say good trouble. You better put a qualifier on it. Or you just better just say a better word. Use your vocabulary. Use your vocabulary. Because if you're not meaning it in a shady, mean way, then just say the nice word that you want to say. See, that's the thing about me. If I'm being shady, I'm being shady. But if I'm being nice, I'm being nice. I'm using the words that matter. When I see people in the community that are activists, that are doing the important, necessary work, you know what I call them? Game changers. I'm calling them powerful. I'm calling them influential. I'm saying you're doing the necessary work. I'm not saying you're causing trouble. I'm saying you're doing the necessary work. You putting that work in. You stand on business. I see you. I fucks with you. That's what's up. Clock it. Like, I'm affirming them. That's not affirming language. And I see so many people that use these other words to describe the work of black folks specifically in ways that criminalizes their work. I'm no longer accepting that. So when a certain person comes up to me in certain spaces and say that stuff to me, I check them, especially if I don't know you like that. Because if you get up on the mic, I went somewhere one time and somebody got up on the mic and they described my work. And I was just like, I got up and after I followed up, I said, well, let me correct that real quick. And they were a little embarrassed because you're trying to be funny and you're trying to be cheeky. And a lot of people act like they don't know that they're doing it. No, it is. It is. If you're intimidated, if you're a little jealous, if you're a little shady, don't fucking play with my name in my face. You go do that somewhere else. Don't let me be around. Because there was somebody who went up one time and was like, oh, you know, the most hated, the controversial. Okay, is this a compliment? Like, is that how we talk to each other? Because you wouldn't do it with white people, even if they are. Even if they are, you're never going to do it with white people that way. If David Adelman comes in the room, y'all are never going to be like the divisive, controversial David Adelman. You're never going to play with him like that. Even if that's true, you're never going to talk about him like that in that room. So why do it to me? I'm a boss. I'm a leader. Don't play with me like that. Don't play with nobody like that. If there's black people that you respect and admire, actually speak about them in a respectful way. I've just seen too many people in this industry that I look up to, and it's just not about me. I've seen them do it with other folks, and I don't like it. Like, there was somebody one time in a room talking about our queen, Patty Jackson, Miss Patty Jackson. It was like, oh, you know, she's the woman around town, you know, sassy and opinionated. It's like, is sassy? This is a 40-year broadcasting veteran. And it was somebody that was younger than her. And I was like, is that how we see her? Are we trying to look at her as another Wendy Wood? Like, this is a woman who has broke boundaries, barriers. She's a trailblazer. There's another way to describe her. But I've seen this pattern, and I think I'm not letting people do that. I'm just not. I'm sorry. So if you come around me or you come around anybody, a black person that you admire and you respect, let's stop downplaying. Let's stop saying like, oh, you know, they did a little thing today. They did not do a little thing. They did some big shit today. They was on big business. One of my favorite quotes, that's not from a black woman, this white woman, I share it all the time. If you want to know what a motherfucking boss look like, bitch, you looking at one. A bitch that handles big business. And that's how I'm going to conclude this. In the words of Rick James, what he said the other day, I don't know what the other man said, but it's Rick James, bitch. And that's exactly how I feel. That's exactly how I feel. And that's how you need to be showing respect for people. You don't gotta call them all that. But you know, get people right. Put some respect on some things. Because it's just too much shade and disrespect towards people that is actually doing that. If you don't like the person, be shady. Okay? If you don't like me, fuck it. But if you're somebody that's claiming that you have respect and admiration, show it in a different way. Give people real flowers. Stop giving people these fake ass flowers. I guess I gotta tell people, give people real flowers. Do not give people plastic flowers. We do not want the Dollar General version. And I conclude. Now, moving along with movies. So, back on my woke is broke narrative nonsense, Sydney Sweeney's film Americana flopped at the box office. There are other members of her cast that are coming out. Halsey, the singer Halsey, came out and said that she really do believe that the jeans ad, the American Eagle jeans ad situation played a role in the movie flopping. I also think, again, it goes back to Sydney Sweeney capitalized off that controversy, tried to, but the reality is that all those mega supporters, did y'all run to that movie, go see that movie? Did y'all support Sydney Sweeney? Did y'all make her a star? Oh, you didn't. Got it. And so it just proves in this culture war conversation that while Trump is impeding on trying to kill wokeness, it still manifests and shows up in ways. And the reality is that you all keep saying woke is dead, but then what is replacing it? Are y'all coming out supporting them restaurants? Like all you mega supporters in DC, which there are no mega supporters like that. I mean, there are some, but not a lot, right? The restaurants that the liberals went to that you all were like talking about, y'all not supporting those local businesses down there. Y'all not going, because remember Trump said it's safe. Why are y'all not outside playing outside? Y'all not out there either. Y'all not going out to rallies, right? Like, what happened to y'all? Oh, because y'all out here losing y'all jobs too. This economy's fucking y'all over too. Oh, that's right. Trump's policies are not just impacting the progressives and liberals, they're impacting everyone. So no one has money, especially the conservatives don't have any, those mega supporters actually. The Trumpers don't have any money to actually go to see Americana, or nor they were interested. They weren't doing it anyway. And they don't care about Sydney Sweeney that much. They thought it was cute, but they didn't care. So all this navel gazing and this hat tipping off to the far right, it's just not seeming to be lucrative for anybody involved. Who would have thought? Moving on to music. Taylor Swift, baby girl. Okay, I know you wasn't doing multiple versions of this album, but all these multiple album covers, what is happening? This week her fans are getting slightly annoyed because she's been doing like all these different album cover versions and she's like making limited versions of them. And this is just capitalism on steroids. Like, I don't know. Super fans, I mean, I guess somebody in this economy is making money because I'm like, we're buying multiple versions of the same album and we're just trying to like get certain vinyls. Like, what is happening here? I don't know. But that's weird. Then also Morgan Wallen. Now this is very interesting. I don't know if y'all knew about Morgan Wallen. This is the white country star who's had the biggest selling albums and hits this past summer. If this whole year, if you've been checking the Billboard Hot 100 and the 200 for the past year and some change, Morgan Wallen, who's this controversial country singer, and we'll get to that. I wrote about him in my book, The Case for the Council Culture, actually. But he, got in some controversies during the pandemic. He was caught on camera saying the N-word, okay, while drunk and being ignorant. And it was crazy because that was during the Black Lives Matter, George Floyd. A lot of major industry people pulled him out of stuff. CMAs did not allow, like I think it was American Music Awards, did not allow him to be able to submit for awards consideration. A lot of other people did not nominate him for awards. He consistently, even though the Grammys never not allowed him to submit, but he's never been nominated for a Grammy. And so it's been a lot of just industry issues and things, despite the fact that the last year and a half, his album sales are crazy. Like, this man has been having multiple number one hits. He's been selling. Now, I don't listen to him. I don't like him. I don't, I don't play with racists and shit. But like, apparently people thought like this year has been a very like slow year for music. Like, this year is nothing like last year, y'all. Remember the summer of last year? Oh my goodness, y'all. Like, last year's summer was crazy. Sabrina Carpenter dropped her album. I mean, she did her big one. Sabrina Carpenter did her big one. It was a lot of buzz around her. But it just seems like this has been a very slow year. Like, it just seems like we haven't really heard anything. So this upcoming Friday, Man's Best Friend is Sabrina Carpenter's next album. It's going to be on August 29th from Island Records. But there's just been this, it seems to be not a lot of major hype around this whole album, this whole era. Like, it just seems like a very like slow summer. Like, this seems like a very slow summer. We haven't really heard much. And this is technically her sixth studio album. But it's coming out August 29th, and I haven't, she's got, Jack Antonoff is producing it. I mean, I think he produced the last album. He's produced Short and Sweet. But like, I don't know. This just doesn't seem, there's just, the momentum is not really been there. I think it's going to land number one. I think it's going to be fine. But this has been a very like slow month, a slow summer for music compared to last year. Like, last year it was They Not Like Us and Espresso and other jams. It just was a very intense summer. This summer, I just don't know what the song of the summer is. Outside was a moment, but it didn't really take off, Sabrina Carpenter had Man Child, but that just kind of went. Lord's album kind of came and went. Like, there's just been nothing that really stuck. The only thing that's really stuck is Morgan Wallen. So back to him. he's announced that he is not going to submit anything for Grammy consideration, him as an artist or none of his albums and things. He's not going to submit anything for Grammy consideration, which might be a huge sigh of relief for a lot of other artists that were thinking that he might, in this slow year, he's been the most consistent thing charting, that they thought that, he might dominate. Well, he's not submitting anything. He's apparently not interested. He's like, apparently some of the backstory has been reported by Billboard was that, because the Grammys pretty much gave him, I guess did support his work or uplift his music when I guess he was in his downtime, in his controversy. He doesn't feel like submitting now when everything's on an upswing. Because he's had an interesting comeback, it's been, he's had a massive comeback, and it just goes to show you about, like I always talk about cancel culture, where, look, this man said the N-word and now his career is back on top. But then Chrisette Michele went to that, did the inauguration. So in my book, I think it's chapter 7, like not all cancellations are the same. I always tell you all that when y'all go, well, this person can do this and this person cannot. You're right. I talk about it in my book. I talk about Chris Brown. I talk about Kanye. Like certain people can have it and some people cannot. It's just the double standards. And so here we are, right? Like I think about Kathy Griffin. Like Kathy Griffin, made that mistake of, beheading Trump on a flyer in a graphic bride. This woman lost most of her career. She doesn't really have the career she used to have because of that decision. But like meanwhile, other folks have said and done worse things around Trump and have been able to bounce back. So it's just it's hot and cold, right? So, I'm holding space for that, but that's very telling. And I also want to take a moment here because we have talked about Lil Nas X and, there's been some sad news about him dealing with some mental issues, some health issues, potential drug overdose issues. He assaulted an officer. He was in jail this past weekend. Apparently was out in the streets naked and in white drawers. It's a lot going on there. This explains a lot. Our young gay musical icon is going through a lot. And, you don't know what people are going through, right? And fame can be a drug that, if not controlled, can lead to situations like this. And it's sad because we're watching this happen in front of us. And now, I don't care about new music. I don't care if he has another number one hit. I want him to just be well. I just want him to be healthy. That's how I feel about Britney Spears. Like Britney did some incredible things. Lil Nas X has broken some major records that is still happening. He has the largest number one hit of all time, the biggest number one hit of all time, Old Town Road. He's done things that rappers in general can't do. He's done things that artists, he's just the icon. He's made history. But now I think it's time for him to rest, to go to rehab, to get help, to take care of himself, because that's more important than everything else going on in the world. So I just wanted to name that and mention that. Also, I wanted to mention this because a lot of you all was like, you didn't really talk much about this show on your show. The Gilded Age. I watched this season. I haven't really watched The Gilded Age like that, but I watched this last season. I believe season 4. I call it the Black season. Felicia Rashad, Audra McDonald. It was good, y'all. And even if you don't watch the rest of the show or the rest of the seasons, just watch this recent season. It's beautiful. It's fun. It's humorous. It's entertaining. It's a good watch. And if you all will never get a chance to see Audra McDonald on Broadway, watch her in The Gilded Age and you understand why I love her so much. And her and Felicia Rashad, classic. Like, it's just iconic. So I just want to put that plug out there. Then before I get into what everybody wants to talk about, I want to talk about the Biggest Loser documentary. I watched it. Very interesting. I'll leave it at that. Julian Michael just continues to prove herself to be a horrible person beyond just her anti-Black views and problematic slave denial bullshit she's been saying lately. But what a show. What a documentary. What a show. She doesn't like how she's portrayed. She's threatening to sue. Wow. Girl, bye. She ain't suing. And if she do, child, listen, girl. They got the receipts. The show, that documentary was very eye-revealing, but also a conversation about weight loss culture and fat phobia in society. It was a lot of gems and things I learned from that show. And it was very telling. So I just wanted to name that as well. But yeah, I wanted to talk about that. So let's talk about the truth about Jussie Smollett, question mark. I watched it. It was 90 minutes. It's on Netflix. I saw it. I watched it the night it dropped because I wanted to be able to prepare myself because I promised you I was going to give y'all a review. Now I can be honest about how I feel about everything. First of all, let's talk about the documentary before I get into what I knew and everything else, another tea. This documentary, why, Jussie? Why? I think that the documentary tried to, as much as possible, provide a both sides lens. The documentary tries in its best way to explain and give you a good enough conspiracy theory that tries to entertain the possibility that Jussie was not involved. There's a lot of holes in that documentary that my reporting and other reporters and journalists specify, right? The documentarians, they were a little messy with how they did this documentary because they try so hard to, one, because I think they were trying to get him to talk on record, which he does, but it does not exonerate him. Like there's not a massive exoneration. What we get is a bunch of biased reporters that already have, they're very much so critical of the Chicago Police Department, which I am too, right? I get all that. But they clearly want to entertain a possible understanding. And I get it, right? There's like these holes and there's these little weird things that make you go, why? But there is details that they left out that was revealed during the trial that Jussie does not address in this documentary fully to clarify some of the shit. So let me fill in some of these gaps that even he told me, but I'll get to what he told me later, that is not specified enough on here. For starters, right, they talk about that people can't interpret the video of whether or not the two men that left the video were black or white. We don't know, right? Because some people that defended Jussie said they saw a white man out that night or whatever, and some people claim that. Some people said it was a black man. Some people, they couldn't tell. It was very confusing. And that ending, and I don't want to tell too much of it, that shows you just how some of this stuff still don't stick. But here's some of the issues that I'm still grappling with that they did not discuss on the trial. They did not discuss in documentary. They kept talking about, like, trying to say that it was plausible for him to go out there and that the brothers, that they keep trying to say that the brothers would have not known that location and that it was not the brothers. Like, Jussie continues to believe that the brothers were not the ones who jumped in that night and that it was not them. That's what he keeps trying to claim. What does not stick with me is that the brothers, okay, were seen at the scene of the incident, like area that night, taking an Uber. Why were they out that night? Why did they take an Uber around that location that night? Still trying to figure that out, right? If they didn't have anything to do with it. Why were they around that night in an Uber that night? Oh, the phone records. Why was Jussie in contact with them that night? Because remember, he hit his phone and phone records show that he was in communication with them that day, that night, around that time. Like, why would he, why, he kept saying he kept his phone records hidden, but they went back and found text messages. Why were you texting them and being in communication with them that night? Huh. Right. Also, another thing that is left out that sticks with me and that they didn't bring up in a documentary that I'm going to tell you all now. There was, like a day before the incident, video footage of the car that they drove, the incident that night, that they drove around with Jussie days before, like about a few days before the incident, in that particular area and drove around circles around that area where the incident took place. Now, I'm trying to understand, why would they go in that area with him like that multiple times? Because in my opinion, what I theorize is that they were trying to, that was the plot, that they were in that moment trying to navigate and coordinate the location of when this incident was going to happen. So I'm just trying to put two and two together here. If you don't believe that they were the ones who did it to you, if you believe it was two white men, if that's what we're going to believe here, that were over there and did what they did, if you want to believe that narrative, then my question becomes, well, why were they there that night? Why were they over there that night? Why did they get an Uber that night? Why were they over there that night if that was not why they were there for? And second of all, why would you be in a car with them before then, just driving in the car with them in that area? Why would you even be over there? Because it wasn't like I had any business over there. Make it make sense. So that just kills everything else that's being said. Okay, yes, Chicago Police Department has a history of lying. Yes. But Jussie, you ain't been honest either. Two things can be true at the same time. And so I'm just not understanding that element of it. Still don't get that. The whole money about, oh, I gave them money. Why did they run off immediately after the crime? I don't get why they ran off to Nigeria. I'm still trying to add up why they took the money and ran off and left. Still trying to understand why they immediately left the country right after that incident happened. Like, before even the public knew, why did they instantly leave? Your client has been hurt. What do you give them phone calls to see if they're okay? It ain't adding up. And the financial amounts that was given prior to around that time, it ain't adding up, Jussie. It's just not adding up still. All these other woulda, coulda, period, look at that closely. All that is very just suspicious. It's just like conspiracy, right? Like, you could create a narrative, but it does not stick. So let's go back. And here's another interesting fact that no one talked about in the documentary that was brought up during the trial, and what Jussie himself told me before I get into the tea, is that he had a very homoerotic sexual relationship with one of the brothers during that time. And that is what Jussie told me, and that is what he said in the documentary. Now, let me be clear about sexual. Apparently there was no penetration per se, but they were in bathhouses with each other. They were in they were in spaces where masturbation and queer spaces were taking place. There was a very sexual dynamic around them in a way that was homoerotic and very much in that type of way. They were not romantically dating. They were not in love with each other in that way. But there was a extra relationship that was with them that was beyond just simply a trainer relationship. Jussie did not discuss that in the documentary. And what he does say is that I'm closer. I think it was Bola. I think it was Bola that he was. And in the documentary he says, I was really cool with Bola. Me and Bola was friends. And then he brought his brother in. Y'all was more than just motherfucking friends. Okay? And you told me that yourself. And that was what was said during the trial too. So that also furthers the narrative of there was a reason why there was a connection, why they was able to be a part of it. Okay? Let's not act like these boys were just some random dudes in it. Come on now. Come on. Drugs were involved. And y'all were also doing drugs. It was not just the other drugs. Y'all were also doing drugs. And you told me that. So some of y'all might be going, he told you this. When did this happen? Let me back up. So before the trial, like months before the trial,
Jussie Smollett reached out to me, and this is very ironic, and I'm going to say this, right? He reached out to me. He wanted to tell me his story. He wanted to explain to me his side of the story and explain to me his version of what happened, or whatever, and how we got in contact was he DM'd me from his Instagram page, and I have those receipts because he's blocked me now. He's deleted everything, but the girl keeps receipts, okay? I always keep receipts. He DM'd me, he text messaged me, and I still have those receipts because, we keep everything. He DM'd me, wanted to reach out to me. He knew I was a journalist, heard about me, wanted me to tell a story. Now, I had already written about him previously when everything went down. I was very critical, but I think he knew I was a little critical of the case because of what happened. But I think he wanted to, he's very obsessed, and he in the documentary admitted this, that he's obsessed with, he doesn't want people to believe these things about him. He wants to make his case. So he called me. This was when I was on Poconos. I was at the Poconos with my man. We was at, oh my goodness, what's that place called? It's like the Love Camp or whatever. And it's this place where couples go. It's kind of corny and a little campish, but I went there, and it's a space that Mr. John. This is in February because it's around Valentine's Day. And so I went to the Poconos. I went to the Poconos Palace Resort. They have a over the top romance den, and that's where I went. It was a lovely experience, and I just really loved it. Like, it was just a very romantic experience, and I was having a moment. I was like, oh, this is cute. This is a cute situation. Poconos, and it was cute, right? So I went there during that time. And, while I was on this vacation, I heard about, he hit me up. So it's called Poconos Palace. This is the place. So it's called Cove Haven. And that's where I was, like a honeymoon resort, for those who know, right? It was in February when I went. And this was in February of 2021. So I got the timeline. It was where they had the big champagne bathtub. Eddie Murphy on SNL made a joke about it back in the days. People used to talk about it and tease it, but it has a reputation. I was there on a lover's vacation with my man, and it was cute because this was before we got married, because we got married October 2021. This is during the pandemic, and we went to it. And so it's been talked about, this location. So it's called Cove Haven, and it's in Poconos Palace. And if people remember it, it was this romance den that was talked about on season 2 of Netflix, The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. So this is that place, right? With the heart-shaped pool and all that. Like, yes, it was a very memorable time. So when I was there, Jussie Smollett was in my DMs. And while I was on this little cute little guide, we talked on the phone for like 3 hours. And he basically tried to tell me his version of the story, his career, what happened. He was telling me, like, basically that, at that point in time, Frank Gadsden, Lee Daniels had cut ties with him and not really talked to him. And, his relationship with them was kind of fractured. Because Frank Gadsden, that's the choreographer of the Beyonce Single Ladies, and did all the jet setting and all the, the choreography. J setting was what they call it, which is like a mixture of Vogue and cheerleading. That was Beyonce's choreographer. He was, I guess, the creative director or whatever for Jussie Smollett, because he was helping Jussie Smollett do choreography for his music career. So they were cool at that point. And they were, I guess, sharing a place or spot in Chicago. So Frank Gadsden was the one who actually called the police that night. If y'all remember, after that situation, Frank had been very quiet and not really spoken about Jussie in the situation again. But he was there the night. He's the one who made the police call. It was Frank Gadsden. For those who know the history, he's a big deal, right? If y'all notice, he's not talked about Jussie much since, and never talked about that night and completely dropped it. I think there's a reason why, but I ain't gonna get into it here. Lee Daniels did the same thing. He kind of got distance with him and everything. Initially came out strong for Jussie and then kind of fell back. So at this time, Jussie when he called me, this was February 2021, we talked. He was in a really hard place in his career. Like, he was getting ready for this trial. A lot of people had distanced themselves from him. He was trying to make a comeback. This is before B-Boy Blues and everything kind of took off and that kind of stuff happened. But he was just desperate to have a comeback story and trying to tell his side. So at the time I was writing for Rolling Stone, He wanted a Rolling Stone cover story. I know. I know. He thought he should get a Rolling Stone magazine cover story. And I was at the time kind of like, okay, there's going to be some things we got to talk about. And he was trying to go back and forth about it. Like he wanted to be in the New York Times. He wanted this whole thing. And I was like, look, I don't know if I can do a cover story Rolling Stone, but there could be a story there. And I just need to figure out where I want to go. Because I was like, at the time I was running for Daily Beast, also freelancing for them. And he was just like, he wanted this to be the thing. But at that point, the controversy had died down. It had been 2 years. I think it all went down in 2019. By then, people had moved on. I don't necessarily, like, it was like that wasn't the energy. Like, if it had been in the midst of everything, but he didn't want to talk to press. He didn't want to do all of that. So it was just kind of like a lot going on. He wanted to tell his story, but he was very close-lips about some details. And yet, but he wanted to give me this, I guess at that point in time, background about everything. So we're talking and he's like, telling me certain stuff. He told me before he went on trial, told me that he had an intimate relationship that was of a sexual nature with the other brother, right? There was no penetration, but there were other sexually things. And I don't need to go into all the details, but they did involve bathhouses is what he told me, that they went to a bathhouse and that Bola went there. And I was like, well, is he gay? He was like, well, he may not be gay, might be bi or curious, but that there was something of a homoerotic nature there. He told me that. Trying to talk to him and nail him down about details about the incident itself, he, stayed firm. Like when he says that I stick with my story and this is the story, yeah, you've been handling that same story. But the problem is that I was just asking certain questions like, why Subway? I know you want to eat fresh, but you want to eat fresh in that damn level of code? And then also just questions about like, okay, the brothers. Like, there was some evidence that suggested it. And I was like, why did y'all go there? Like, why did y'all drive over there when things went down? Like, why do that, right? And he tried to frame it like, oh, I was in my fitness routine. We drove around the area because they were trying to show me the route of running. But I said, well, why did you jog with them? Why did you do that? And I guess his narrative was, oh, because I'm a celebrity. I don't, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I guess. But it was just a lot of weird things. And then I'll talk about the money and the ransom, the letters and things. Like, okay, they found letters that looked like, and see, this is the details we forgot. He claimed he was getting letters that was suggesting that, that was something that somebody was sending. He was getting threatening letters. What the documentary did not tell people is that when they went to Bola's apartment or the boy's apartment, is that they found the materials, like the magazines and things that would look like ransom letters. And the brothers, I believe, said that there was a larger plot beyond the incident itself. So when he talked about getting these threatening letters, it was suggested during the trial, at least when I heard from sources, that the brothers were claiming that they were the ones manufacturing some of those letters and sending them out to build up a case. And during that time, Jussie was having an issue asking for more security and protection during that time. And it seemed like there was a build up to this. To then that when he did have the incident happen, he could be able to say that it wasn't such a shock because there was already things happening. It wasn't random. But apparently, according to the trial, the brothers were suggesting and saying that, and even when their evidence got found, that there were materials that suggested that ransom, like threatening letters, were being manufactured the way they were. So some of this is just like, that didn't get addressed in documentary. And even when I tried to talk to him about some of that, I was like, well, what was that about? He couldn't answer those things. So I led with I'm interested. I want to believe you. He's just saying the trial will expose everything. And I covered the trial. And I think he was trying to get what he was not honest about. And this is why me and him ended up having some disagreements on both sides. was that he was not really trying to end the story. Like, he wanted me to do this big old profile for him and do this big story for Rolling Stone and for these publications. But he wasn't really trying to talk about the trial. I mean, not the trial, but the actual incident. He wanted to talk about his life to sobriety, because he did admit to me he had a drug problem, that there was infidelity in his relationship. He was dating a guy named Quan. Was it Quan? No, Twan. The dude, I think the boyfriend was named Antoine. He was an attorney in Philadelphia, and he's the son of a very prestigious black pastor in Philly. That I remember. So if y'all from Philly, y'all know a guy named Twan or whatever, or Antoine, this was the guy that Jussie dated him. Because I can spill the tea. It's time to spill tea, because now everything's out. I can say some things. He was dating a guy. I think was he a lawyer? I think he was a real estate dude, actually. I think it was either attorney or real estate dude, but he was a black dude, gay, named Antoine, or Twan, as they called him. And he is from Philly originally, was living in New York doing some real estate stuff. He also was dating Jussie. I know people that saw Jussie in parties and saw him and the boyfriend. The boyfriend is a son of a pastor of a church around Philadelphia. I don't know who the pastor is or who the minister is, but apparently he was of good stock. And Jussie and him was dating for a period of time. And apparently Twan was I ain't gonna say he was a hoe. I ain't gonna say that. But apparently he was cheating on Jussie, or they were cheating on each other. And I guess they made a deal that, because Jussie had a drug problem, Jussie told me this himself, that if him and the boy, like, he would stop doing drugs if old boy would stop cheating. And I guess at one point in time, the way Jussie said it is that he went back to doing drugs because Twan was still cheating on him. And so I guess that night he said all bets were off. He went with the boy to the bathhouse, one of the twins, and he went back to doing drugs, and he was out here in these streets doing what he was doing because Twan was still cheating on him. That was what he said. Allegedly, Twan was cheating. I don't know if he was cheating, but that was the infidelity. And so their relationship was a mess because, he had a drug issue. Jussie was doing drugs, and Jussie was also out here doing what he was doing. Now, what kind of drugs and all that, I ain't gonna get into all that. But there was an issue in that relationship. So that's what led him to get caught up with the twins in the way, one of the twins in the way that he did, which is very sloppy. Like, he made this dude an extra. He had this dude on certain sets with him because the twins had aspirations of fame. Really, Bola was the one he had the close relationship with, which he talks about in the documentary, but he doesn't get into details about the nature of it. But that was the main one for him. And to now see these boys turn on him in this way and do what they're doing, I mean, they're clowns, they're opportunists. I mean, granted, there was a lot going on there. But nonetheless, yeah, I just feel like two things can be true at the same time. Jussie lied, and the cops are corrupt in their own way. But in this situation, the documentary left me more questions on Jussie's side than the other side, but also just like, why are you still pressed? And so back to the issue at hand with me and him and how we fell out, because y'all probably like, well, why? How did y'all end up falling out? So Jussie was hell-bent on trying to get me to do pre-coverage of him that was in a favorable light. As a journalist, and as the type of journalist that I am, I don't do fluff pieces, and I'm not trying to do a piece to help you get your image. I'm not a PR person. I'm not a publicist. If he wanted to do a story with me, I'm like, yo, we got to talk about the trial. We got to talk about that. He acted like he couldn't because of his lawyers. Well, if your lawyers do not want you to talk about this, then I said, let's talk about it after the trial. My mindset was, if you come out innocent and not guilty, then let us do an exclusive. Let us do a story. I will work to find it. I'll find an outlet, but whatever. But I can't do a story before this trial and ignore the trial or ignore the case and you don't really talk about it. Like, I can't do that. And so that was the issue that we had. That was really the issue that we had about it. So mind you, at the time though, even though I couldn't do pre-press for him, he said at the time he respected that and was like, okay, I said, I got to cover the trial though, right? So we stayed in contact. We didn't have any problems. We was texting each other. The trial happens. For the Daily Beast, each day of the trial, I was covering each day of that trial. He really did not like the way in which I was talking about it. But I was like, yo, I'm not seeing any major like smoking guns. I'm doing my job. I'm not seeing anything like you. It's not looking good for you right now, yo. Like, I don't know, but I'm waiting for you to reveal something, and nothing's coming. And then in one moment and during the trial, close to the end, he reveals his sexual relationship with one of the twins and deflects the questions about other things. And at that point, I'm like, dude, you sucked on trial. Like, your testimony, your stuff, like, you did not do yourself any favors. You spent time trying to play into this hyper social like, you were trying to basically manipulate the jury and distract the jury in ways that had nothing to do with the issue at hand. He could not stay focused on answering the right questions. He did not give the most coherent answers. He deflected. He talked about other things. It's almost as if he really did not want to actually address the situation at hand. And everything that when they were asking questions about stuff, it was like as a black man, like, dude, what are you doing? Like, these are yes or no's. These are here. This is what like everything was just so deflecting, and just seeing him do it, I was like, bruh, like, even Ray Charles can see that something's up here. And so they didn't really get into that on this documentary. This documentary is very short. It was only 90 minutes. Honestly, I would recommend that you all watch the News Nation documentary. That is the one that came out like about a month or so ago. It's on YouTube. It's 2 hours long. It's free. I would actually say to you that both of these documentaries have their own slants, but the News Nation documentary that I think is a better look at the trial itself and the actual details and facts. Like, yes, there's certain folks that were slanted, but Jussie did not want to agree to the interview, right? But based on just the details of that is a little bit more specific on the case. I feel like with this Jussie Smollett documentary, they were trying to, in so many ways, create all this doubt and all of this conspiracy that they never got to the meat of the situation. And that was frustrating to watch. So that's my full take. That is my take on Jussie Smollett. I don't really care about this dude much. After the trial happened, he was pissed off with me. He blocked me on all his social media accounts. We have not spoken since. And then I turned around and I did end up writing a story that got in Rolling Stone. And that story won me the National Gay and Lesbian, the National Association of LGBTQ Journalists National Award for my piece that I wrote. That won me a National Journalism Award, which is why it was my piece on basically explaining why I think Jussie essentially did it. I think Jussie did it honestly because I think Jussie wanted to be the hero at a time where Black queer men were not. I think some of it was driven by ego, but I also think that he did it because in most of this man's career in life, he's never gotten to be the tough guy or the hero in the way that he wanted to. And I think that in some ways he did this because I think he saw his career being molded in a way that was not in his control. I think that the way that Lee Daniels did a number on his character during Empire, the way that he's being talked about in the press, even when he always talked about how he hated himself looking like a victim. And so I think that the entire point of this was that the plan was for him to have a moment where even I don't think so. So let me be very clear. And this is what people get confused. And this is what I wrote about, even with this. I don't think Jussie wanted there to be a situation where he wanted to start a quote unquote race war. I don't think Jussie wanted to look like the victim. I don't think Jussie wanted anybody to get arrested. I don't think Jussie wanted a trial. I think Jussie just wanted to be able to say, I kicked some mega people's asses. And he just wanted to look like a hero. I don't think he wanted people to go up like that. I think the plan was, in my mind, even on the way in which he did interviews, like I noticed the way he kept talking. He keeps saying, I fought the fuck back. He never wanted to be viewed as soft. He never wanted to be viewed as weak. I think the plan is that he wanted to have a hero moment. I think he just wanted to have a kick-ass moment. I think he wanted to be like, yo, two dudes, ran up on him and ambushed him at this place. And he kicked their asses and fought back and came out on top. And I think that's all he wanted to be done. I just think he wanted to be able to say, yo, because think about it. When most Black gay men get attacked, by people like that, right? The Chicago Police Department does not go up and care about those cases. Most of the time, they just go, we can't find the accusers, we can't find the people, the end. But I think the problem here is he did it in the wrong city. Chicago is a very liberal city, right? Despite their issues, for Mega to do it in Chicago is very troublesome, right? If he was in, like, I don't know, Jacksonville, Florida, or some very southern red state area, and this happened to him, number one, the powers that be over there in those very conservative places would not have given a fuck, and they just would have said bullshit, or he would have just been the hero, and they would have never looked into it because they never wanted to implicate their own. But at the end of the day, even though Chicago has its corruptions and their problems, it's still very much an anti-Trump city. So, of course, the police department is going to feel inclined to do it. And on top of that, he's a celebrity. So that's going to take precedence because you don't want to scare business. I don't think he calculated that aspect in it. I don't think he really realized what that was going to bring. I think he underestimated that. I think he thought that he was going to tell this story. He was going to say, look, I kicked their ass. I don't want to press charges. I'm good. And that was going to be the end of it because he never really wanted to do all that because he never wanted that to be the story. But then as more evidence came out and there was certain other pressures and phone records and things, he's like, fuck. And so once that happened, that created a domino effect, right? And so I think he was not planning for that. I think that in any other day, if a black person claimed they was attacked by some people like that, normally they just go whatever. I think I underestimate the role of power and celebrity in this, and also the level at which people, the culture we were in, that was going to happen. I think what he wanted was for him to be attacked, him to basically say, I fought back, I kicked their asses, and I'm good. And he wanted to have a hero moment, and everyone was going to go Jussie, taking on the man. You a tough guy. And that was going to rebrand him in a different way than how he was being framed. Because I think how he was being framed at that point in his career was that he was super gay, but also not gay in the sense of, you're an activist, like, like you're somebody. Like, I think he was also kind of framed as us being a snowflake to certain people in certain circles. And I also think there was an element of him that wasn't appealing to other types of people outside of a certain demographic. And this man has a music career coming. So there was a sense of he wanted to show that he was more. And so I think he's a victim of America's toxic, masculinity. I think a homophobic society that does not allow people to feel that way. I think all of that was a part of what drove him to that point. So there is a little bit of empathy there, but he went a little too far. But I think essentially the goal was never for him to be the victim of the story and people to feel sorry. I think the goal was for him to try to showcase himself, because every single time he's talked about it before the trial, if you notice, he always talks about how he punched him and he held his own. He's still trying to hold on to this masculinity that makes him tough. Even when he did the interview with Robin Roberts, he kept trying to say, look, I'm not a victim, I'm not this. He didn't want to be a victim. He wanted to be a hero. He wanted a gay boy to look up to him. He wanted to do that. And it's sad that he felt like he couldn't do that with Empire. But I think it's because the Empire branding tainted that image in a way that was not good for his overall career. So I think he was trying to create something outside of that to keep himself relevant. And I think his character was slowly but surely going to fade out any fucking way. Because that's what Lee Daniels do with his characters. He exploits the fuck out the character. He wants to get more up the ante. And I think Jussie did not want that to be the way that his character would be written off. And so there was a lot of creative differences, but also his image and branding. And I think he did this to try to reshape that and reignite his relevance in a different type of way. That's my theory. So that's it. So this week, as you can imagine, is going to be jam-packed. There's going to be lots of surprises, lots of political updates, a lot of professional development for me as I get ready to teach next week at CCP. But this upcoming week is going to be filled with surprises and good things. Enjoy the last days, the last long dog days of summer. And as always, be well and be best. Ernestly Speaking is recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. To stay up to date with the latest on the show, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mr. Ernest Owens. Use the hashtag Ernestly Speaking to tell me what you thought about this episode, and check out my website at ernestowens.com.